Okay, well, hello everyone. This is last day of the workshop. I have a few slides to show you a bit the competition, so you have everything in hands, both practical and also theoretical. Basically, you'll see that all the things you learned yesterday, you can be directly applied, and even like the building blocks you had from the exercises can be reused. Actually, I'm gonna post the solution of the exercise soon on Slack, so you really have the code. And we'll build up from this. Like we can build more fancy model, and I'm gonna show you a few things here. So you have some ideas throughout the days once you have the basic running. But yeah, first on the theory, a quick chapter on what is even RNA structure. Because a lot of you might not be biologists. Actually, I was not even when I joined the lab. So yeah, quick recap. The general idea is that we have DNA, where you restore the information, and DNA stays in the nucleus. And outside the nucleus, you usually want to create the proteins that gonna actually have function in the cells. And in between, what we learn in typical biology 101 is you have this RNA molecule that's gonna copy the information of the DNA and like move outside of the nucleus to the cell to be translated into proteins. Now, proteins are like protein field is a big field of study, and protein have this complex structure. And actually, John Jumper presented his work on predicting the structure of proteins. Which is very useful to understand its function. Now, people have started to realize that actually RNA also has like a function in the cell. It's not just this messenger role. RNA also falls into complex structures and has different function within the cells. So it's actually now a big area of studies too, and the lab is refocusing on this actually. Now a bit of terminology. Primary, secondary, and tertiary structures. So primary structure is really just a sequence. It's the first information you can get, and we have a ton of these. The very long-term goal would be to have the tertiary structure, and this is what AlphaFold is actually doing for proteins. You also have this complex 3D structure. For RNA, we don't have so much data on this, and on top of that, it's not always super well defined and not always super stable representation, because this might move a lot. So people are studying a lot the secondary structure, this intermediary representation, that really just shows, okay, what's nucleotide appear with which nucleotide. So you see RNA is just this sequence of nucleotides. You have 4 possible bases, A, U, C, G, that just repeats, and you have very long sequences, few hundred, few thousands even. And you just want to see who is connected to who. So this is usually the way you represent it. And this creates this kind of simple motifs. We have the stem, the loops, and these kind of things. And from these structural representation, scientists can actually study the function of the RNA within the cell. We're going to study a lot of the secondary structure today. So there are actually a lot of other representations, and I plotted here a few. So here we start with the same little drawing of another RNA structure. So you see these different nucleotides are paired with each other. And today we're going to work a lot with this pairing representation. It's really way better format for deep learning. You have to imagine that both of the X and Y axis, they represent the length of the sequence, and we're just looking at is one nucleotide paired with another nucleotide. So most of the time it's 0. You have this kind of gray background, and you're going to have like a 0th answer. And sparsely, you have those little connections. So here you have, maybe nucleotide 40 is connected with nucleotide 32, something like this. And so I color coded it. So those pairs actually correspond to those pairs. And you see it's a symmetric matrix. So of course, if I is paired with J, J is paired with I, so it's symmetric with respect to that axis, this diagonal. So we're going to work a lot with that, and just to show you a bit, we can also work with list of pairs, like very compact representation. who in zero index is paired with who. And sometimes people also like to work with the dot brackets, also very compact, sometimes a bit more ambiguous, but basically dots are unpaired nucleotides and brackets are paired nucleotides, and each bracket has a matching bracket. Each open bracket has a matching bracket that corresponds to the corresponding pair nucleotide. It's same. You see the same color code to kind of see that those two are like encapsulating the whole structure, the blue paired nucleotides. But anyway, that's really the basic of how RNA structure works. And now we're gonna really directly go into how do we even do the prediction. So kind of similarly to how Eve presented Atmo, most of these have been first tackled with classical methods. And really the idea is that you want to find a structure with the minimum energy, which is the most stable energy. This is how people started with. And there are many ways, it's basically an optimization problem, many ways to solve this. And usually you just like try to find a lot of motifs, some motifs, and all of the different connection. So you tried all of the motif and sub connection until you get the one that has the minimum energy. And one efficient way to do it is with dynamic programming. We're not going to dive deep into dynamic programming, but just quick way. Dynamic programming is really interesting when you can decompose a big problem into small problems. And here it makes sense because the total energy of the molecules is actually really the sum of the small contribution of each different motif. So for example, like those two little, this pair plus this pair plus this pair, they all add up different energy terms. So we have big libraries from the Turner rules, a lot of big libraries of different motifs and their energy, and then programs to assemble all of these to find a minimum energy structure. What we're going to focus today, of course, are learning-based methods. So same as for the weather forecast, you can kind of bypass this whole optimization process and directly learn the outputs of the process. So from the sequence, directly learn the minimum structure, minimum energy structure. And for secondary structure prediction, we're actually starting to have really good data sets, pretty big data sets that we're gonna use today. And it's basically then just a supervised learning problem. We have the input, we have the output, just put some model in between. Today we're gonna focus on end-to-end methods, but just you can keep in mind that some work actually try to do hybrid methods. So they're just gonna add some correction term in the library of energies, for example, or there are a lot of ways to combine classical and hybrid methods, but I would say they're less fun than end-to-end. And so here, this image is a bit similar to the pairing matrix you saw before, but here we have continuous values. And so you still have this L by L matrix, so sequence to sequence, that represents what is the probability that those two nucleotides are paired with each other. So now we have a continuous value between 0 and 1, and it shows the confidence of the model, really. So here you see that it seems pretty confident that there are all of those base pairs here in this diagonal, and it seems like it's not so confident that those are paired. And basically your model is working in continuous space, right? So we need to have something differentiable. So your model is going to output something like this. It cannot output just a binary value. So after you receive this, usually what we do is just a simple thresholding. So maybe you're going to say any value below 0.5 is non-paired, and the other one are paired, and then you're going to get the same matrix as we had before. Let's dive a bit into different blocks you'll have to develop today. Some of them are already developed. Actually, this one is already developed and given in the GitHub. But quickly, we have this sequence of nucleotides, this kind of weird object. It's like a string, basically, in Python. We need to embed it into a tensor for PyTorch. So typical ways you could transform this into integer encoding. So basically you assign one integer to each base. And it's kind of like your dictionary. So we have 4 base. You can have like 4 values, and you can have maybe a 5th value for padding if you want. We'll talk a bit about padding after. One hot encoding is kind of the next step, and it's a bit better because this you can actually process with a tensor, with PyTorch, sorry, but it's not so great because there is this kind of implicit relation here that, for example, A and U are closer than A and G because the values are closer, and we don't really want that at this point. We don't want to bias the model into any way. We really want to have each base with being its own orthogonal, own thing, completely independent of the others. So one hot encoding is one way to do that. And you see here, each base is represented as a vector that is completely orthogonal to the others. So this sparse representation, if you do like a dot product between each of them, you'll get 0. And then we really have completely independent values, but you see it's still one base, one vector. A is always the same vector. I mean, here in this example, U would be the same, no? 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0. The next step would be, you could apply a linear layer on this and start to transform this into more continuous values and a richer representation. Another way is to use the table embedding. And basically table embedding is, imagine a big simple 2D table, and each row is going to be the representation for one base. So here it's represented as column, but you can imagine that this, for example, would be the entire row for A. It's going to be initialized completely randomly, but with continuous values. So you could have like a very long row to represent a more complex and denser representation. And in our case, we would have 4 rows for AUCG, and maybe each row would be 256 long. And if you have like a really, really long vector for each row, well, each base is going to be quite different from the other base, naturally, because the more values you add in this row, the more different those different vectors are. So you don't have to worry too much about this today. We haven't discussed this yesterday, so we give you the code to directly go from the sequence to this representation. So what you will really have when you load the data is this L, being L is the sequence length, L by D, and ED is the length of the row. And the bigger D is, the more data your model has to play with the sequence. So here, in a sense, L by D is L by 4. It's the minimum number you should typically use. If D is smaller than 4, it's not going to be enough to distinguish the bases usually, or it might be ambiguous. And usually we work with like more, maybe 32, 64, 128, usually powers of 2, and that are quite big. This is really the kind of the hidden dimension or the dimension of the transformer as we saw yesterday. So it's going to be one of the first parameters you're going to play with. So you receive this L by D, and what is important here, each base has the same vector. And you can see it here in the little drawing. Like for example, the 2 C bases, you see they have the same kind of vector here. What you can add to that, and we don't add it yet, are positional embeddings. They're not critical. If you're going to start with simple CNNs, if at some point you want to add some transformer, for example, positional embeddings will be useful. So you could just, we'll talk maybe about this later as it goes. Okay, now you have a sequence, L by D, very similar to a sequence of text, sequence of tokens. So the first step you could do is use some classic layers to process the sequence. And you've all seen the transformer a lot yesterday. So yeah, you can add some self-attention layers. You can have like a full transformer encoder. I put the link here. of these layers in PyTorch, and actually very straightforward to use. You can build LSTM. Yeah, just keep in mind, as always, the shape have to match all the time. So you will receive something like this, an element in your batch, and then, yeah, in PyTorch, they usually use C as the number of features and L as a sequence length. So actually, maybe we could just, can I even click on this? Yes. Oh. This is one of the layers, and you've seen those pages before. This guy basically is a stack of many layers, and is a very convenient way to quickly create a transformer encoder. Now, how do we start it? Okay. Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't even advise to process the sequence. We could directly go to CNNs. So just have to keep in mind that you start with a sequence, which is basically an element of length L, and you want to go to this pairing matrix, which is more like L by L. So we need to do this conversion at some point. And it's kind of also a switch in layers. So transformers are great for sequences, and CNN are great for more just like pairing formats. So we also provide in the embedding this conversion from the two. You have a few operations that can do this transformation from L to L by L. And I think in embedding here that we give you, we do the auto concatenation. So you don't have to worry too much about this. But yeah, just keep in mind that, yeah, shape always have to match. And it doesn't matter so much what kind of operation you do, as long as no information is lost and the shape match.
Shape match, as in the shape, the like output shape of the previous layer has to match the input shape of the next thing. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. The model has to run. And in our case, what do we know? We have some constraint on the input formats, sequence, and the output format, pairing matrix. So we need to make them match. But this is given, and so basically now when you load the RNA, you get both the sequence representation, this L by D, and the structure representation. The pairing representation, L by D. What you really should focus right now, just after this presentation, is process the pairing matrix. And we're going to use classic CNN at this point. You could even start with just a few layers of convolution 2D, exactly the way LeNet is doing for digit recognition. Yeah, just start with that. Now, we've seen some architecture of CNNs, and you're going to need those as you try to get more and more layers. You could start with put 2 convolution 2D, then 4, then 10, and at some point you'll see that it's going to not behave well, and you're going to start to need those tricks. So start to add those skip connections. Batch norm, really you probably already use, convolution 2D you already use. Batch norm and skip connection is going to be useful. These are very simple to program, and you might even find some example online too. I would start with the ResNet, which is really the easiest. You could try a UNet at some point if you feel fancy, or try adding transformer. At some point, you'll be like, we'll all start with the same architecture, and very quickly we'll all do different things. Yeah.
What is skip connection?
So skip connection or residual connection. Yeah, I don't know how it was presented yesterday, but it's basically this arrow you see here. So instead of just going straight like this, where your pairing representation is processed by convolution, you also directly give the input back to output. And so those layers are just maybe computing a difference, an adjustment to the inputs instead of completely transforming the inputs. In Python, it's pretty easy. You do like, you keep X, you transform X into X2 after all of those layers. and then you do x2 plus x to be x3 in a sense. That would be like the most simplest way. You just keep your inputs and you add it to the outputs. Yeah, I put the Gaussian transformer here if you really feel fancy. Never tried those actually for this problem. So if anyone wants to try, be my guest. At this point, so you're gonna have a lot of these layers. And yeah, at each step, you're gonna have this channel size, maybe to make it really more concrete. We talked about this D. Maybe you're gonna start with 128, something that just gives enough meat for the model to work with. L by D is gonna be the internal representation of your model. At the output, what we want is just L by L or L by 1. So here, D is the channel size. You remember the convolution to D? We had, yeah, I think it was called the channel size, number of features. Yesterday for the digit recognition, it was kind of the reverse. You started by L by 1 because you had just a grayscale image and you added more and more features. Here we're gonna probably do the opposite. You're gonna start with a high number of channels and we're gonna probably just reduce it little by little until we have just L by 1. And the way you do it is very simply those convolution 2D. You can just say that the number of output channel is just always a bit lower, and at the last layer, you just ask that the convolution 2D will give you just one channel. So that's a simple way to get some pairing metrics. At this point, you should have L by L, and this will be very similar to this beautiful image we saw before, like this one. Once you have just L by 1, you can actually plot it and have probably something like this. And the last step is going to be kind of process it. Yeah, this is kind of what I say. You can use a convolution to the operation that outputs just one channel. You can also just use a linear layer, and the linear layer is just going to work on the last dimension. And if you have high dimensionality here, you can go from this D to 1 and then squeeze out the last dimension. So there are a few ways to get this L by L matrix. Once you have the outputs, we need to make it a real output and make it something convenient for the loss function. So two ways. You can use a sigmoid layer because sigmoid layer really works super well with probabilities. At this point, your model is going to output something wild, like highly negative and highly positive values, maybe. Sigmoid is going to squash this into a probability from 0 to 1. And then we can use classic loss function. We haven't seen those yet. This is the first time we check them. Binary cross entropy, fancy word, but it's just the classic loss function that people use for classifiers. And here our classifiers is it a 0 or is it a 1? Is it paired or unpaired? So you can actually click on this link and directly use the loss function they provide. You can actually try mean square error, like this also work in a sense. Your model is going to output something. With the sigmoid, it's going to be between 0 and 1. And you can also just use MSE to make it closer to the real 0 and 1. So many ways, but I would recommend the binary cross entropy. And actually, honestly, I would even recommend using this last point. This is what I usually do. So this is kind of combining the sigmoids and binary cross entropy into one layer, and it's a bit more stable numerically. This is gonna get any value that your model returns, highly positive, negative value, so they're not probability yet. Convert it to probability and then compute the loss. And so, yeah, so this is the binary cross entropy loss function. A bit different than MSE, which is its quadratic form. So at this point, you have a nice probability matrix. After a few training, it's going to start to look really good. So L by L values between 0 and 1. And then we really need to convert it to a real structure. And honestly, the simplest way you could do, if you want to get started, is just threshold it. So all values, yeah, you decide whatever threshold you want. Actually, the way you wrote the code, you might not even need to do anything. Yes, because the output function is already thresholding it for you if you forgot to do it. But at some point, you would start to want to have some control on the way we post-process this pairing matrix. You might want to adjust the threshold. You might also want to kind of control the constraints. This pairing matrix has some constraints on the way RNA structure works, and your model does not know any of these, so it might output something completely wild. The simplest example is it's not going to be symmetric at first. The model doesn't know that. It's going to see that it's usually symmetric, and it might try to go that way, but it won't be always perfectly symmetric. And there are a few constraints like this. Some constraints are easier to work with than others. So you can actually symmetrize a matrix pretty easily by doing basically the average of the matrix and its transpose. So transpose is flipping the matrix along this diagonal. And if you do the average between the matrix and its flipped version, you actually get a symmetric matrix by default. This operation is differentiable, so you can actually be part of the layer. So usually I add this completely at the output of my model. And that's one constraint that is force solved. Again, you don't need to do this at first, but this will get you extra points basically for free. Should be binary matrix, and there are other ways than thresholding. One big constraint is that once a nucleotide is paired with another one, it cannot be paired with another one again, right? This is a complex constraint for the model. It has no idea about this. And when you do thresholding, actually, you might see that in one row, you have multiple ones, meaning that nucleotide should be paired with many other nucleotides. This is not really correct. It will still run, you will still have some score, but there are other algorithms that can help you remove that. And they're gonna try to find the highest probability paired and only keep one value per row and column. So you could also play with that. This is a few extra free points that are not so hard to get. Last two constraints, only canonical base pairs. Basically, you start with a sequence, and it's only GU, GC. Actually, I think we might have said this in the Kaggle.
It's in the Kaggle.
Yes, I forget to add it in the slide. But you'll see it on Kaggle. There are some base pairs that are allowed and not. For example, G cannot pair with G. A very simple way to take this constraint into account is just to remove all base pairs that are non-valid in your final structure. You could apply a mask, for example, and same for the sharp loop. Sharp loop is like two nucleotides that are really close to each other cannot form a pair. Usually the minimum distance is 4. So it's the same. Basically, this is where this matrix representation is very convenient. All of the values at the diagonal and close to the diagonal, so the sub-diagonal basically, they always be 0. And you see this gap here. There's always this gap of 0 values. So you can remove basically all of the invalid pair and also get a few points for free. But not so important now, just keep it in mind. So to summarize, you start with a sequence, we embed it as a sequence of vectors, sequence of token, L by D. You can process the sequence if you want, with a transformer encoder typically, then convert it into L by D, then process it with typically ResNet. You have the L by L matrix, and then the post-processing step gives you the final structure. And for this morning, I would advise to just directly go to the ResNet or simple convolution. You're gonna get L by D and L by D directly from the provided code. So just play with the final parts of the model. You can get really creative depending on how fast you go. And just give a little teaser, this is actually the current architecture we use in the lab. And it's a more complex mix of self-attention, convolution, 2D convolution, and channels in between that keep sharing information. Instead of having first the sequence processing and then the matrix processing, like is presented here. Here, both are together at the same time throughout the whole model. So they keep sharing information. And this is a very good architecture, but I don't think we'll have time to develop this today, obviously. But you could maybe find some ideas from this. Okay, any question on kind of the theory of how it works?
Yeah, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
When you go back to, can you go back to this slide?
Mm-hmm. Which slide?
Sorry, I'll tell you. So, yeah, just keep going.
Do you know what is the slide in general?
Yeah, yeah. So when you do what they call, you still need to do table embedding. Yes.
We still need to do what?
If you do one hot encoding, you still have to do like table embedding.
Yeah, well, one hot encoding is going to be processed by anything you throw at it. You could feed the one hot encoding representation to a transformer and it will be fine.
Okay, I was thinking if you can do like the one hot encoding, you feed it to the transformer, like to tensor.
That also works. What you will get, actually, I'll show you the one hot encoding just to show you how it works. But what you will get is already these embeddings. One hot encoding is very sparse, it's not ideal. So we already give you this. Yeah.
Can I pose a question that might help explain what?
Yeah, for sure.
So, who remembers what D is representing?
Animation.
Say again. In this case, not yesterday, but so we have L and D. Do you remember what D is representing here? Anyone? So D here is the size of our embedding dimension.
Yeah.
We talked about, or we watched a video yesterday that talked about embeddings. Does anyone remember what we were embedding or what the video was embedding? So the video yesterday was about large language models, and we were putting words or tokens, really, but let's say words, into an embedding space. And by putting the words in an embedding space, the model, just with the embedding space, was able to develop some kind of understanding, an intuitive understanding of the relationship between different words. So you're absolutely right. We could just use a one-hot encoding and feed that right in. We're providing you with the code to make this embedding. And there's the potential that the embedding is going to pull out some underlying relationships between the 4 nucleotide bases that the one-hot encoding goes on.
Yeah, one hot encoding is basically no bias, no assumption. It's just all bases are completely independent and different. But after training, you might see some relationship that say, oh, those bases actually closer to those bases. Maybe the one that pairs have a closer representation. Like A and U can pair, so they might have a closer embedding than A and G.
I have a question from Zoom.
Yeah, good.
Yes. Okay, I think you have covered it in the class, but can you explain again why you use the outer product between networks in the lab model?
Outer product between
networks, the lab model. Networks.
Is it clear this idea that we need to go from the sequence to pairing representation? Like L by D to L by D. Okay. Outer concatenation is just one way to do it, and honestly, there is a Wikipedia page on this actually if you want to dig into it. It's just one way to create. Basically, you're gonna repeat this L by D and tile it to create L by D, and then add it with its transpose. And this way you really have all of the information throughout the L by L by D. You really have a full and dense representation that kind of copied all of the data of the L by D into these new formats. But you could do it any other ways. It doesn't matter so much at this point.
Yeah, I have one more question. Concerning the test sets, I looked at the test set, so there is no structure. I just saw it this morning. There's no structure in the test set.
Yeah.
But I saw that in the data load that you specify that there should be a test set. So are we to divide the train sets?
So I'll show you the code. So we give you everything. So you have a training and validation set, and this is what you're gonna use in your code. And then the test set is just for the Kaggle submission. So indeed, we just give you the sequence, you do blind prediction, and we rank it.
About this L by D, maybe I can
Yeah.
ask you a question, maybe you can confirm if it can help other people.
Yeah.
So D refers to the embedding dimensions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so and L refers to the length of your entire RNA sequence.
Yeah.
So it means that for every element of L, its length is D, like D1 in this case. And we're trying to go from every nucleotide being expressed here, that is length D, to expressing it with itself, or like any other element of the network, and that's why we do L by L.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, we want the relationship between every nucleotide and its other. That's a good point. Yeah, we start with representation where we have a vector per nucleotide, and now we have a vector per pair of nucleotide. Really. Okay. So no more question in the chat.
Yes, no more.
Great. So let's be a bit more practical now. The IDs we have one day, and you'll see we can have some nice structures in one day and actually nice results even. We train this end-to-end model. We're gonna create teams up to 3 people, and usually register on Kaggle. And actually, those prices are completely wrong. Sorry, it's still a placeholder. So we have actually much better prices. The first team gonna have like $1,000 in GPU credits. Second team 250, and last team, no, second team 500, and third team 250. Wow. So really nice prices from our sponsors. And it's GPU credits. No, it's not cash. But to give you an idea, $1,000 in GPU credits is roughly 6 months of a GPU continuously running a pretty good GPU, basically the one we're gonna use today, and that can actually solve this problem. Or 3 months of the just higher end version of this, continuously running. So if you have some deep learning project at home, this is actually a nice GPU to use, and you could develop some really cool things with it. But you'll get some credit from BAS, so you could actually use any GPU from their catalog. Yeah, sorry for not updating the slides, but then the different roles that we have for now. Yeah, everything's gonna be on Kaggle. I'm gonna show you quickly how it works. You should all register, create an account, then team up with the people. And then throughout the day, as you create submission, we have some code to make the proper format. You just upload it, the CSV, you get ranked, and then throughout the day, we'll have the leaderboards. I think we have a limit of 10 submission. So you can't just like keep submitting to kind of other fits on the test sets. You'll have to be really sure that your submission is good. Maybe try 1 or twice just to see that things work. And then this is why you provide also a validation set. So some data that you don't really use for training, but just to check that your model gets better and better. And then, yeah, don't test and upload every minute. So why we do that is because the test is gonna get corrupted and less and less useful if you keep using the test set to validate your model. You're gonna see this kind of case of overfitting on the test case if you use it too often. So this is why people usually separate into training and validation and testing. And some people even have like more tests to kind of keep the result very clean.
I'm just wondering, on the Kahoot competition, the leaderboard is not gonna be the same during the competition and when it's ended, right?
I should answer
Because,
it'll be different leaderboards. There's not a way to make it the same leaderboard.
But it's the same test set though.
no,
It has to be split into
That's what I mean.
private and public.
yes.
Okay,
So, okay, I'm just gonna, like, what I meant by this is that, like, so during the, so during the competitions, like during the day, you're gonna make different predictions and you're gonna see your score being like increased. But actually, this is just a test on like 30% of the data set. And your actual leaderboard score, like at the end of the day, is gonna be made on like the other 70%, which is hidden from you.
Right, yeah.
So actually, like, you may have a surprise, like, at the end of the day, because you might go down. And this is made so that, like, you don't overfit. Because otherwise, exactly, like, if you make 10 submission, you can just, if you actually increase your score, being like, that's better than this one, and just.
I think for that this is the case.
Yeah, so that's what I meant. And like, just so
Just
you know,
confirm this, that's.
you may see a jump, so you want your model to generalize.
And the people who attended the whole workshop get extra points. Cause like yesterday, there were 7 people on there and now it's 13.
Well, the extra point is gonna be coming very clearly. People who have been following, getting the code, asking questions, will have a much easier time. People who are interacting.
We'll get it, how it works.
So we don't have any control of the metric, and this is how this competition is fair. The ranking is done automatically by the websites. So at this point, we have no control and we can't influence anyone. About these private and public test sets, we're gonna have to confirm this, but at this point, it doesn't really matter. You're just gonna submit, it's exactly the same submission files. You don't have to submit something different for the final ranking. Everything is done by the platform. And maybe the rank's gonna slightly change at the end. So the leaderboard is slightly gonna move. We'll have to check that. That's about it for the overview, and I'm gonna show you.
What time do we have full selection? Midnight, you said?
So the end of the commission is 9 p.m. for now. We might move it. I think we can move it throughout the day.
Yeah, it depends how long we wanna be here. Like, we can move it until the deadline. Once the deadline passes, we can, but.
Okay, 9.
Midnight is good.
We will really see how it goes. Honestly, I have no idea how.
I just set it to 9 so that it wouldn't pass without us being
No,
done.
yeah.
But we should set it earlier. I mean, I don't wanna be here until 9.
We'll see how
I
it
thought
goes.
midnight.
If we want, at this point, like if you guys want to leave at 4 because you're done, whatever, everything is automatic and it's gonna be ranked. You don't need to be here to receive your rank. So it's really up to you how much you wanna get involved in this competition.
Just like if you want to actually win, like.
That's the campaign and leave at 5.
So I sent a link this morning or yesterday, I think, and just stated that so when you do a submission, yeah, you click on here, you just upload the CSV generated by the code, and it's automatically ranked. So this is like a random prediction. So the F1 score is very low. You can have like between 0 and 1. If you get 1, it's perfect. So go on there, read all of the rules.
If you get 1, you're disqualified. If you get a perfect score, you're disqualified.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, read that. It's well written by Casper.
Actually, nothing.
You check on that. Kaggle is a very nice platform, honestly, and you can have the leaderboard here. And right now, I guess I'm the first one because I'm the only one who submitted a shitty entry. But soon I won't be.
What do you think is a good F1 score? Because right now your score is like 0.03.
At first, F1 score is not easy. So at first, you're gonna get between 0 and 0.1, and it's not gonna move much. And slowly, you're gonna build up. And I think at the end of the day, most people should be above 0.5. And this is the threshold we're gonna use to say, how do you pass the workshop, basically? This is the minimum grade we ask. So if you want a certificate, if you want to say you pass the workshop, this is how we test it. 0.5. And 0.05 is not,
50.
yeah, it's actually not so easy. F1 is a pretty stringent metric. So I would expect most good summation to be between 0.5 and 0.7. And if you have more than 0.7, then that means you brought some interesting thing. You didn't do just the vanilla network. Thought about new layers maybe. Let me show you last important thing, which is this. So actually, this should be now, yeah, this is now, oh no, this is actually the solution. Should not show you that. This one is private, you don't have access to it, but this one is public. This one I sent to. This repo has everything to get you started and gonna make your life so much easier. It's still very similar to what we had before. So you had this high-level training loop that for now is very empty. Loads everything, gets the data. So you saw yesterday a bit how the data loader works and how you go iterate over the training data and validation data. So this is provided, and test loader is a bit different. It's just the list of sequences, basically. So yeah, as always, initialize your model, your loss function, your optimizer, do your little training loop over epochs and over batches. Add also a validation loop at some point to make sure you're not overfitting. And yeah, the test loop is just running the inference of the model. Here for now, it's just a random prediction. So here you're gonna do model of sequence, basically. So a lot of things to fill up here. Here. And in source, you have all of the thing. You're gonna mainly work in model.py, which is for now a very empty class. So this is just to the embedding. So this is very convenient to directly give you the correct formats. And this is the model, the class you're gonna fill. So you see for now, classic formats. You have the init. You can add any layer here. So just add a few convolution 2D for now, and then forward them. S is the sequence representation, L by D. M is the matrix representation, L by D. Actually, we can check here just above the exact shape. I think M is actually embedding dimension times L, because this is what the convolution 2D is expecting. So I already put it. You don't need to do any flipping and reshaping. So yeah, fill that up to create something that runs and create a little training loop to try to see if everything works. And then let's just start with that. And as the day goes, I'll explain a few more things, give you a few more tips, and at some point I'll show you how to get the GPU so you can really scale up the training. Any questions?
No question in the chat.
Perfect.
Does everyone understand biologically what we're trying to model? Okay, good. Like, so, sorry. An RNA is a sequence that we are expressing in terms of 4 letters. So like, each of these is a nucleotide, and they're each represented as a letter. And an RNA has, just to give you a little bit of sense of like why this is interesting or why we care. An RNA has a function that in some cases is determined by the way that it is physically structured. So like an RNA in our bodies is not a straight line. An RNA body in our bodies is like a clump. And the shape that that clump makes can determine what it does in our bodies. This is really important for things like, the Ruskin lab published a paper where we discovered a new structure, a previously undiscovered structure in the RNA for HIV. And that structure regulates the reproduction of HIV. And so understanding these things is a first step in potentially making diseases like HIV, perhaps not curing, but coming up with treatments for them. So that's why we care. This RNA, each of these nucleotides, some of them are attracted to each other. And what we're determining here is based on a sequence of letters, which represents the RNA. We want to determine how a structure might fold upon itself. Do you have any questions about that?
We're looking for tertiary structure or secondary?
So we're working on secondary structure.
So you want the most energetically favorable pole,
Say again?
the most energetically favorable pole.
So we're not working with any like free energy constraints. We're hoping that the model itself is going to, through training, maybe not learn those constraints, but it's picking up on those same things that the constraints are represented. You still seem hesitant, and like, if there is any question, please ask it. So yeah, that is the RNA part. And then like, in terms of the structure of our model, how do we feel about that? Who feels strongly confident in their understanding, like the structure of the model? Who feels moderately confident in their understanding of the structure of the model? Okay. So, I pull up the slide.
This is just too thick. I saw that, so I was like, what the hell? I just specifically turned yours for that reason.
Okay. Do you understand what the axes here are represented? No. Okay. So each of these axes is, like, these numbers are representing the index of a nucleotide in the sequence. So in this sequence, these have letters, and that letter is representing which nucleotide. There are 4 types of nucleotides. So these letters represent which of those 4 nucleotides. But we also have an index, which is positional information about where in the sequence that nucleotide is. And so that's what these numbers are, it's telling us which nucleotide using zero-based indexing is at that position. So in my sequence, I wrote AUG. So at 0, we have A, at 1, we have U, at 2, we have G. And the color of each pixel here this is showing me the prediction of the model. In this case, a bright color is a more confident prediction. So this is telling me that it has some moderately high level of confidence that the 0 nucleotide of this sequence is paired with the, 65th nucleotide of the sequence. So these axes are the same axes. This nucleotide is the same as this nucleotide. Is that right?
Do you all have an idea of what the simplest model you could write, like the simplest layer you could add, so you generate this thing from?
The simplest.
The simplest layer you could add, like from yesterday's exercise, we saw convolution 2D.
Use a sequential, a simple.
So NLP, actually the simplest would be an NLP. The issue with the NLP is treating each token the same way. It's not gonna really mix information between tokens here. So I would add a convolution before. Convolution is processing this kind of matrix representation into another matrix. You start with this big block, L by L by D. So convolution is gonna take all of those channels and can return just one channel if you want. So you can actually just have the simplest model would be just one convolution 2D. Take the D dimension as input, one dimension as output, and that's about it. The only thing you have to be checking is that the shape, like the length of the parameter, should be constant for the network. You start with L by L by D, you should arrive at L by L by 1. And remember, sometimes convolution like shrinks the images. So this is why you add padding, and you have to play a bit with this operation. Just play with padding to add the right amount of padding. So usually there is a right number between the kernel size and the padding to make it perfectly the same size on the input and output. So that's the only thing you will have to tweak. But then you could just start with just one layer, maybe 2 layers, and that's it. So focus on predicting like this L by L at this point. And yeah, see if you get any learning. You should get some decreasing loss at this point. Don't focus too much on the point score.
All right. I just want to give everyone another chance to ask questions, since I'm sure that people do have questions online too. And like, if one person has a question, I'm sure there will be others, and it's more time efficient for us to be able to explain them now, rather than individually explaining them a bunch of times. So please don't hesitate.
I see some question. Okay, perfect.
So the code that we're getting is until it's like all the embedding and the encoding.
Yeah, you basically get, wait, come back to the petition. You get these and these for each sequence. You get both.
Oh, so it's already gonna be in that,
Yeah,
like, matrix, okay.
and actually it's even D2 by L by L, so you can actually directly fit this into a convolution 2D operator. So yeah, we'll start with that. Just start with this one.
So the codes that we just have to do data.
You get the data and it's already in this format.
Okay, it's in this.
Yes, that's why it's much simpler. You can directly, so let me show you again.
Into like two. Going into a higher dimensionality.
When you load data, the batches you will get is, where is it?
Oh, it got wider?
So it's
The data you get is already in this L by L by D, and many dimension is D basically. And you model, so here you could directly add like convolution to the operator and process M with it.
So do we do this multi-site kernel or?
You're gonna try to complete this model to make some prediction, and once you start to have some nice model, then you will upload it to Kaggle.
So
I'm just trying to understand. Can we do this thing?
Yeah, you can do anything you want. I would recommend, I mean, the
actually,
way
like doing it in Google Colab, you already have a GPU in there as well.
you could do that too. Not exactly sure that's the easiest to, I guess you can, like, can you just upload the entire, drag and drop the entire folder?
I think we can each do or compare.
Something to keep in mind. Ideally, you have to save all of your progress. So I don't know how much Google Colab is gonna save. Gotta be careful with that.
Okay, that means we have to be like inside here.
Do you know GitHub? So who here does not know GitHub?
That's fine.
You never use GitHub? Anyone?
I really.
Okay. If you, so you should be able to just download this. Actually, yes, you could actually just download the zip and start like this. What I would recommend is just fork it.
So when you fork it, basically you're making like a separate, it's like you copy the document on your own space,
Yeah.
and then you can make edits to it.
Yeah, because you cannot make any edit on this guy. You cannot upload your edit to the clouds. You can do an edit on your local machine, but if you want to upload it and save it, you're gonna have to fork this.
Do we know what our teams are? As long as like each team has one person who understands that.
Yeah, that's true.
Do we know what our teams are? Yeah, great. Does one of you three, know how to, like, have a GitHub account and get stuff?
Actually,
You forked it? Okay. You have GitHub? Do you know how to fork a project?
no, I know.
We'll check about this GitHub thing later. For now, if you really just want to get started, you could, best would be to do git clone this, so you really get started well. If you don't even want to do it, just download the zip, get started, get some training going, and we'll think about how we upload and save our results a bit later. But as we're a team, it's nice to use Git as soon as possible to kind of synchronize our progress and save it too. It's 10:15. Yeah, at this point, let's not focus too much about the environment. Let's just try to get started, get things going so you really understand what's happening here. Can you see well?
Could you make it a little bigger without ruining, like, and if not, that's fine.
Comment less.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
Well done, Pierre. I was about to dig into the settings, but okay. So you have this. You have the trainer.py, and the model.py is really where you're gonna work most of the time. Model.py is to define the model. Trainer.py is the training loop. So what is this first line doing?
That is like, the train sets, that's the train and valve sets.
Mhm.
Right, then you have the feature and the label divided by, the train and the test.
What do you mean?
Now, the batch size is 4,
Mhm.
maximum length is 15, the split is is telling you, take 80% train, 80%, 20% should be to test, ratio test.
Yeah. Overall, these are really giving you the data. And we're not just getting the data, we also like embedding it and also chunking it into batches of size 4. So train loader is gonna be an iterator and gonna give you each element being input and output batched into elements of 4 elements together. And indeed you get all of it. For now, we're gonna focus on train loader, but after we're gonna apply the same for the validation to get an idea if your training is correct. So for now, we'll just focus on validation loading. And let's write the entire training loop without the model for now. What do I write here? Model, loss function, and optimizer. I'm not gonna define what is inside my model, but let's still instantiate it. What is my model here? What do I use? Well, actually, I should deactivate Copilot because it's gonna be a bit too easy for you. So what do I write here? Model. RNNet, yes. So from the model file, we're gonna import this RNNet class, and it's actually asking for an embedding dimension. So what is this? What should I put here? What's a good number here?
64.
Yeah. This is the depth, whatever, let's put it a bit nicely, whatever size we want inside the model to be. Okay, last function, we're gonna call criterion. What is a good last function for this problem?
BCE.
BCE, so binary cross entropy, it's a good last function for classifiers, and we're gonna actually use the special one I showed in the slides.
Someone in the chat is asking,
Yeah.
for embedding dimensions, question mark? I don't know if that means you want.
Like asking how we determine them, maybe?
What's the question exactly?
I think the question was just embedding dimension, question mark.
That's so you could precise the question.
Our choice of embedding a dimension is a little bit arbitrary here.
Yeah, this is correct. So the main dimension, I am gonna put the slides close here, but yeah. Any dimension is basically how big this vector is, and the bigger it is, the more data the model has to play with. But it's kind of arbitrary for now, and you can start not too big, not too small. 64 is good. The last, I don't know where I put this actually. I think here. Yes, we're gonna use this VC with logits. And I don't know where I can click it, but I will make sure. Okay. Yeah, actually. Yes. So this guy, so don't hesitate to click on all of the links, check on the page. It's a lot of data, but usually just look at whatever the example is. And you see here, just like happily copy paste whatever data you find on internet back in your code. All right.
Oh, gotcha.
So it looks pretty good. And they say it seems that there's only one important parameter, and actually we don't even need it. These are different ways to weight the data, and position weights is for now not really important. As usual, those last functions are good. So yeah, start writing. Try to keep up what I write, so you have the same what I have. Next step, optimizer. What should we have here?
Adam.
Adam is good. What should I write exactly?
One moment, please.
Optim is the library, yes, or the module.
And Adam.
Adam. And Optim doesn't know it, so probably let me just do target Optim so it knows it.
Oh, your model parameters.
Yeah, so we always give the model parameters to.
And then your learning rate.
Exactly. And so what could we get as learning rate? So actually you see VS Code is suggesting all of this. And we're gonna do something. What should we do as a learning parameter? Learning rate, sorry.
0.01.
0.001, yeah.
Yeah, okay. If everyone has the same, let's do that. And that looks pretty good. Check. It's all correct. There's just one small little things you never know, but I know now. That's correct. That's pretty good. We can keep it for now. That's simple. Training loop. We have two for loops in training loop. What are the two for loops? What are we iterating over? Yeah.
Epoch and then batch. So like epoch is like how many times we're going through the entirety of the data set, and
Yeah.
the batch is so sorry, is it like 4 sequences or is it in fourths? Like the batch size. Oh, batch size.
Batch size, you will get 4 sequences at once.
Okay.
Yes. So if you have 40 data points in your data set, we'll have 10 batches of 4.
Okay. Sure. So then yeah, epoch first.
There's something we might not have explicitly yesterday, but one epoch is indeed going over the entire data set once, and we might do this a few times to get better results. So maybe let's just do one epoch for now. And that's the easy loop. And now, what is the second for loop? What are we iterating over?
The batch. Sorry?
Yes,
Okay.
we're gonna get all the batches. Yeah,
That the tree node should initialize like,
we can do that. But for now, let's not keep anything in mind. Let's just try to have something running. All right. So we simplify the training loop. So how do we iterate over the batches?
For batching, the data loader.
Yes,
and tree node that.
exactly. We have this guy that is in iterables. And iterable means that you can do this weird syntax. Correctly. So this syntax works, thanks Python. And so each of these batch is going to be an object that contains multiple data points.
Yeah.
But it's still a complex object. And if we check actually on the README, we see that each batch is a dictionary with reference, sequence, and structure. So how do we get element from the dictionary? I want to get X, my inputs. How do I get it? What is my inputs?
That's the sequence.
Yes. How do we get the sequence?
That's batch sequence. That's batch sequence.
Yeah. So that's the syntax of the dictionary. And we just made this because, yeah, it's convenient for this application. What is Y, the output?
Y is structure.
Yeah, what kind of object is the structure? What kind of tensor, what kind of format do we have? What kind of shape?
Matrix.
It's a matrix, and what is the shape?
450, that's 50, that's 50.
You don't need to give me the right exact number, just like
Square.
it's a square matrix, but here we're also batching all of our tensors.
Four. 450.
Actually, you can give me the right number here because we have defined all of this here. So each structure is going to be L by L, so the sequence of the RNA by itself. Here, the maximum length is 50, and all RNA in the dataset is going to be biased to 50. So indeed, all output is going to be 50 by 50, and it's batched, so it's going to be 4 by 50. Maybe it also writes for this guy, so we're going to have N by L, and here we have batch of structure, which is N by L by L. Okay. So we have the input and the real outputs. Okay, what do we do now?
You specify the widespread and model.
What is widespread? What is widespread?
The predicted direction.
Yeah, so how do we get this prediction?
Widespread is equal to model.
Yeah,
Brackets.
very good, yeah. So X is inputs, processed by the model, we get a prediction of the output. Okay, so that's good. I mean, we could even stop here. We could just put a break here and just print that everything is running fine. So let's do print x.shape, y.shape, and y_pred.shape. And yeah, let's go step by step. We don't need to go too fast. And let's run this guy. And sorry, the training data loader is, the data loaders take a few seconds to run every time. But yeah, that looks pretty good. There is a little warning here saying that I asked for 1,000 data points, but there is only 26 that are of length less than 50. So it just gave me the max, 26. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. 4x50 is the input, 4 elements of length 50, and the 2 outputs. Actually, you see that my Y prediction is still kind of a weird shape, but I mean, we haven't worked at all on the model at this point. So I'm actually surprised that it even ran. But yeah, there's still some work on the model, clearly. But for now, let's keep working with the loop, our training loop. So what do we need now? We just did a prediction.
No, you have to put an optimizer.
We need to use this optimizer indeed, yes. So how do we use the optimizer?
Optimizer, zero grad, that is, for every batch, zeros out the gradients.
For every batch, there is what?
You see, that's optimizer of zero grad.
Yes, not exactly. We first need to, we're gonna
The loss.
compare, yeah, there is a loss first.
Yeah.
So what is the loss here actually?
That is, loss is equal to L, that's y_pred, y.
Yeah, we call it criterion here.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it's called. And what do I put here? What do I put here?
That's y_pred.
Y_pred and Y_pred and the real Y. So here we check how good is the model. But now we need also to do the backward pass. We need to use this information to inform the model how good is it and where it should update its weights. So what is the syntax? It's like just a damn syntax. You just need to reuse all the time. It's always the same. What is the first step?
Optimizer comes first.
Optimizer is gonna come after actually. First, before doing the optimization step, what did we do? What did we do on the first day?
Calculate the loss.
The loss, yes. And then once we have the loss, we also need something else about the loss.
Take a step.
We need to get the gradient of the loss. Do you remember?
Step, gotcha.
So the way it's done by PyTorch is you do loss backward. And it's not gonna compute. So this is actually in place. So you're just gonna fill up all of the gradients in the graph, the computational graph. Usually you also do, so you remember the video from Andrej Karpathy, he said like the classic mistake is to forget something. What is the typical thing people forget before doing backward?
The gradients, the collected.
To collect what?
Sorry. What was the question?
There is something missing before the dot backward. It's also dumping the zero grad.
Zero are the gradients,
Yeah,
yeah.
the zero grad. And it's just because gradient are additives, so if you never reset them to zero, they're gonna keep add up over the whole training loop. So it's underscore grads, zero grad, then a backward. And now we have the gradients and the loss. What can we do?
The step, optimizer dot step.
Yeah, now we do this step. Remember, this is last equation. Theta plus equals theta plus the learning rate times the gradient. This is just all done with the optimizer. And it's just that step. Actually, that's all. That's all we need at this point. And we could just maybe print the loss. And one way is just to do item is going to return a nice value instead of a complex tensor. And yeah, let's try that. That looks pretty good. Pretty simple for now. Yeah, let's still put a break. So clearly now there is a little issue. Target size maybe say that's input size, and basically it's showing me that my model is not outputting the right dimension. So it's time to work on the model now. So model.by so you see this, you saw this big thing. This is the embedding, and you don't need to look at it too deeply. You just look at what it's giving you. This is gonna take the sequence n by L and return to you an embedding version of this. So S and M are the sequence representation and the matrix representation. And we're gonna focus just on the matrix representation because it looks a lot like the output. So it's way less work to transform this into the outputs. So we initialize this kind of layer and then we use it. So X is this N by L sequence, and then S and M are the two embeddings. And now we need to do some layers to arrive at the right dimension. So as we can actually forget about it, you can just do this underscore. So what is the dimension of X? What is the shape of X? No numbers, just in general, like the general case.
Embedding.
There's no embedding yet. That's the key point. X at this point is directly what you got from the data set, the data loader.
N by L.
It's N by L, yes.
N
There's
by-
no embedding dimension. Yeah?
Farhad was just saying right now, N by embedding them by L.
Almost there. So this is gonna come a bit after. So now we have embedded this. So M is what dimension?
Patches.
Batches, yes. So N. Actually, you could just look into the code of RNA embedding. I'll tell you what it is. It's embedding dimension after, yes. We call it T, it's simpler. And then what are the two last dimensions?
L by L.
It's L by L, yes.
That's what Farhad was saying.
Okay, yeah, Farhad is answering, that's great. So this is pretty good because maybe let's call this the output is something and we're gonna return the output. What is the shape of the output that we want? Batch, yes, by
L.
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 Yeah. L by L is one pairing matrix, and we batch them. So how do we go from here to here? We're gonna have to add some layers here. So what kind of layers do we want to try here? The simplest thing. The what? 2D convolution, yeah. So let's first initialize some convolution. The first layer. So how did it work? What's the syntax? nn.conv, and actually suggesting conv to D. And what are the parameters? Let's see what they ask. So what is in channel? Yes, definitely. And here, what's the name? What's the parameter name? It's the D, and yeah, and it's called embedding dimension indeed. So you see how D is embedding dimension in our software. What is the out channel? What is highlighted in blue now by VS Code? How we could do the same thing, but let's say we just want one layer now. So this layer is gonna convert to the final structure.
Then just one.
This one is fine, yeah. Kernel size, what can we get? What do we want to try? 3 is very classic. And padding, oh, there are a lot of parameters, but let's for now do no padding. And just let's check what's happening.
Which side?
So we have a layer that looks pretty good. And now what do I write here to get my output? Actually here I can write it. Oh, maybe let's do separated. M equal. When I do this, I'll get something, and I don't exactly know what it's gonna be. It's n by, what is the second number?
L.
It's not L.
So,
We have embedding dimension as the input, and what is that put? Yes. Actually, let's see if this is correct, because convolution has the tendency to shrink the images or change this size, so we're gonna just check pretty simply. And we're gonna just print everything. Take that shape, print and shape, and again, and let's comment this out because otherwise the code is not gonna work. Or let's just call it multiple M for now. And yes, and let's just do one quick pass and see what the shapes are. Can someone predict what's going to be exactly the shape? Yeah, but do you know what is going to be?
We didn't pad, so we're gonna lose one on every edge, so it's actually gonna be two from each dimension, so that'd be 48 by 48.
Yeah, well done. It's here. So this is the input sequence, this is the embedded one, and then we lost one.
So because our kernel is 3 by 3, that means that we're going to lose one on each end of the matrix. So instead of L by L, it's gonna be L minus 2 or 40, so from 50 to 48.
In general, it's not always easy to remember. There are a few formulas, and if you're lazy, you can just iterate a bit. Here it seems that we're losing one on each side, so I'm going to add one padding, and just retry. But the rest looks pretty good. Yeah, we have 4 by 1 by 48 by 48. It looks pretty nice. And now we have the right shapes. It's still an error because it's not exactly what we want. What does the error say? We should actually remove this extra empty dimension. So how do we do that?
Oh, squeeze.
Yes.
Yes.
So squeeze is the right one. And what dimension are we squeezing out? What dimension are we squeezing out?
The one.
1. Dimension 1. Yes. Nice, nice, nice. I mean, let's see. Huh? This time, hopefully, we don't have any error. And let's start to remove a bit all of those useless prints. Okay, so there is still a bit of error, but the tensor are correct now, and it's just, so we did the first pass of the model, it worked well, the criterion also worked, and what is the error? It's line 30, it's this guy, and actually, what did I do? It's actually not the loss of with the rat, it's optimized, yes. Let's try again. And the loss is going to be not a very big number, but well done. We have a first pass. And let's now do a few more loops. So still just one epoch, so not so big, but let's go over the entire data set this time. Let's actually a bit all of this. Pretty good. That looks actually very impressive. Keep in mind, we're only training on 26 data points. So at this point, the model is probably just memorizing whatever we asking it to be. And some nice loss. Let's try to go a bit further. Let's try to add a second layer here. So second convolution. What could we do? Let's modify this. What do we want here? What we're gonna try to do is reduce a bit the embedding dimension. Instead of doing one step from 64 to 1, we're gonna just have an intermediate step. So we can do embedding dimension, and we divide it by 2. The reason I do 2 slashes is gonna cast it to an integer. If I do divide by 2, it's gonna do floats, and PyTorch won't like a float or a number of features. So now I have this, I can duplicate this and call this convolution 2. And what do we have as inputs?
Embedding dimension is higher.
Divided by 2.
Yeah. And here we could have, let's just go back to 1. And this combination of kernel size and padding, they work together well, so we're gonna keep them. So let's do again, self.conv2, and just call it on M. And that's about it. Let's try again. And let's try a few more iterations. So you see it's not always perfect, but hopefully it should, over the epoch, sorry, it should still be continuously decreasing. So we should have like a nice continuous function. And as we see, it's not completely the case. So there is probably something kind of weird happening. You see, it's going kind of all over the place. So this is not perfect yet, definitely. So there might be some bug. Let me quickly check if there's anything weird. I don't see anything weird. It could be in the model. Is there something weird in the model? That's pretty good. So when it's just doing something weird like this,
It might be because it's printing loss per batch rather than per epoch.
this is correct. This is a good point. So how do we deal with that? Now each batch has a different loss, and maybe we're unlucky. Some batches are just harder than others. So this is kind of why we're jumping all around the place. So it would be a bit more interesting to have the loss per epoch. How do we do that? We want the loss for the entire epoch. Now we're just putting the loss per batch, but some batch are just unlucky. We can save it in the list and do an average. We can do a running average, or like just do a bit more efficient, something a bit more efficient. We're just gonna sum it of the batches and divide at the end. Okay, and this can go. Yeah. Is there a question?
It's just that you do it inside the batch.
So we're gonna just do the average of all losses on this batch.
Okay.
And now we need to divide by the number of items. And how do we do that? Well, this train data loader is a very convenient function, a very convenient object. You can get the length, so how many batches is there directly from this iterator. So you see a bit more efficient way to do an average. And let's do maybe 5 or like 10 epochs. So it's still not super good. There's definitely something that is happening. So honestly, at this point, I'm not really sure. We're gonna debug live. One way we made to remove this guy seems to have been causing some issues. What kind of embedding dimension do we have? Ah, yes, let's do. Yeah, let's try to go back to a simpler model. Oh. Yeah, still not perfect. Let's do.
Can we footnote from the embedding dimension in the first, in the model side? Embedding dimensions to embedding dimension, and the second one is from.
We could do that, yes. It's not gonna change too much, probably. Let's keep back our model. Okay. So when something is kind of weird like this, we can just try. Usually, first reflex is to lower the learning rate. Feeds stabilize things, and then try to look a bit at all of the parameters we set. Is there anything kind of weird? So it looks a bit better, just a bit more stable. But that might just be a fluke. Start again. And overall, batch size is small batch size. We have a very small data set, 26. So all good there. Yeah, it looks a bit better. What is the embedding dimension? It's pretty big, but it's okay. Let's do 32. Overall, this looks pretty good. I might leave you like this and keep adding more on top. First, are there any questions on the overall training loop and model that we have now? Yeah, Casper.
I have a question about choosing a device.
Mm-hmm.
What change do we need to make in order to send the model and the data to a GPU, for instance?
Yeah, we'll have some discussion about the GPU hopefully soon. Sorry, 2 p.m. It's kind of written in the slides, and we'll go over this quickly. But basically, yes, yeah. You need to detect the device. It's already in the training loop by this, and you need to cast your model to the device. You need to have your input data. So here it's X to the GPU, and the criterion. So your last function also there. And then if you need, usually it's easier to cast it back to the CPU for like any processing or any metric you want to compute. We'll go over this when we need GPUs. Now, for now.
There's a tiny question from Nathan.
Yeah.
I just quickly see where lost epoch is defined in the code again.
What is what?
Lost epoch.
How is it defined?
Yes, where, yeah.
It's right there.
defined.
Yeah, we start at 0. So this is just an efficient way to compute an average without storing all of the intermediate variable. No? We just sum it and divide it by the length. I think at this point, first, does everyone has something like this? Like either by following this or with your own code?
My training like this.
Okay, so you have some small number at the end.
No, I didn't run because the model I wasn't working on the model.
Okay, but you should all have something like this. All on your computer, you should have like your own model or something that can process all of this. Now, the next thing we're gonna add is a pretty simple one. It's just a metric, because the last is not very informative. Like what is 003 or how good is it? I have no idea. So we're gonna do something very similar, so metric epoch. And just at each iteration, computes the metric. And for now, this is where we have the utils, and you see here in the README, so template class, metric. we provide some function to compute precision, recall, and F1 score in util.by. So if we go in util.by, we have those that are already imported actually. And compute F1 is gonna get your prediction, the real value, and it's gonna threshold it for you, make it binary for you. So you don't even need to do any processing at this point. So here, what we're gonna do, metric, epoch, same as the last, but here we compute directly the F1 score for this batch. And this is gonna be, what do we put inside? What variable exactly? White bread and white. So exactly like the last function. So this is gonna return you a scalar and same. Like we aggregate it, and at the end, metric epoch divided by length of the train data load. Something like this, and let's see in practice what can our super small model do. And honestly, at this point, I'm not expecting much because our model is so small. Like even though it's super small data set to learn, it has almost no parameters. So it's really hard for it. So we actually get 0 F1 score. So competition is over, but everything runs. And now, guys, we have a framework, and it's all about scaling up little by little. Scaling up the model, scaling up the dataset size, scaling up the compute. At some point with the GPU, we have everything in place now. So please have something similar to this. I'm gonna actually push it on GitHub, so you can go over it. But yeah, you should have something like this. And now, just as a little teaser, we're gonna try to add way more layers. And actually, I have no idea how it's gonna work, but at some point it's gonna break. I don't really know what's gonna happen. But typically, as Sharif suggested, we can, to add more layers, we can just keep the same embedding dimension for sometimes. So with 3 layers like this, so this would be a block. And then actually at the, sorry. And then at following layer, we do the same, but like this. Also, we reduce the embedding size, and we keep the same a few times. And then let's start with just like this. I'm kind of curious, will it train? Because at some point, maybe also print whatever we are printing. So this is the loss.
Wait, why are you defining the same composition layer multiple times?
Yeah,
So we're adding more layers here, trying to make the model bigger. Like the easiest way we could scale up the model. Yes?
I think she was, why are you calling it the same thing? Why are you calling it code?
Oh, yes, sorry, yeah. So right now we haven't even,
Okay,
Yeah, sorry.
okay, I get what you mean now.
I haven't even used the layers. But,
Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. No, that's
so you're right. So it's really bad code. Please use like more like sequential and this kind of operation, but could do something like this. And yeah, something like this. 3, 4, 5, 6. And yeah, I mean, technically it should run. You know that at some point we'll have this issue of vanishing gradient if we do go too deep. But gee. What kind of error did I do? Oh.
How is it going? I think it's from the 3rd to the 4th. I don't think the dimensions line up.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Points. Maybe 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1. Yeah, much better.
and they ran everything, but like, I don't know where it's showing.
Oh, it's so when you divide by two, you get
Right.
an integer.
Yeah,
So,
just random.
otherwise you get like a one, which would be like a point zero, which is the code. you
Oh,
get,
still.
So it's zero.
I guess.
So clearly we need much more, much bigger model, and this is where things are gonna start to be interesting. So please have this running, though. And the next step is really gonna be to build a residual network and have like much more layers. So right now it's still like really small. And what you should have is, oh no, I don't really have the slide here. Try to create a new class just for the residual block, one residual block. This is your next task. Here. Try to have a class that just does this. Initialize two conventional layers, a relu, two the batch norm, and it goes over all of the layers and then re-add the input back to itself. So you should have just a class like this, should be pretty small class, and takes as inputs whatever input dimension you need, whatever output dimension you need, and then we just copy paste these layers a lot of times. All right. So I'm gonna actually try also to do the same in parallel as you.
For batch norm, someone's asking me one 2D or one dimensional batch norm.
So I think 2D, what did I use? Wait, batch norm 2D is what I used. So the typical block I have is like conv 2D, batch norm 2D, and relu.
Okay.
And yeah, literally you can initialize in the layers. Wait, here. You will have in the init 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers, right? And then you just call them one by one. So try to have that, and try to use it.
Wait, so you mean like within the forward pass, putting all the layers in one?
So basically here in the model.py, you're gonna create a new class called resBlock typically. And it's gonna be also an nbot module, so you just follow the same syntax. And it's as always, yeah, you do the inits and then the forwards. And yeah, in the init you have your layers, which is gonna be just follow the slides, those 5 layers. And in the forward, you just use those 5 layers, plus you add back the inputs. So really follow this schematic and see and send. Print all of the shapes, see if the model runs correctly.
So this is to replace the
This-
block that we just did.
Is to replace this just one convolution. We're gonna replace the convolution with an entire residual block.
Oh.
And then this will allow us to really add so many of these blocks. Because right now, if I add too many of these, it's gonna start breaking. Once we have a residual block, we can actually have 50 of them if we want, 50 line like this. It's gonna actually work, okay? Any question in general in the chats, on Zoom?
No question on Zoom right now.
Great, well guys, let's get to work and see you 30 minutes, 45 minutes maybe. Let's try to move quickly. Yeah, for the recording and for Nathan. So we developed this block. I'm gonna push this online, but basically the rest block is those 5 operations that we have seen here. 2 convolution, 2 batch norm, 1 relu. We define them here, and then we use them one after the other. So this is pretty easy, and the important thing is really that we feed back the inputs. So this is this arrow. The input is added to the output. Okay. So ResBlock, I think it's clear. And how do we use it? I was saying that to make it a bit more convenient, I put usually like a few ResBlock together in a sequential module, and this just allows us to encapsulate many blocks in one variable, one layer. So then we can call this layer like any other layer, and it's actually gonna process a lot of things together. Now, because we also want to reduce the embedding dimension kind of like gradually throughout the model, I'm using just one convolution operation to halve the embedding dimension. So this module works on the full embedding dimension, and then this convolution is like some kind of interface that halves the embedding dimension. So remember, this parameter is the output. So here we halve it, and then we can have a second module that works on half the embedding dimension, and another interface module that halves it again, and you see it's basically always the same pattern. We could encapsulate all of this actually in another class, maybe ResNet module, right? I kept things simple, so you have a lot of copy paste around, but this allows to have 16 layers of res block, and each layer of res block is 2 convolution operation. So 32 convolution operation plus those 4 interface convolution operation, that's 36 convolution operation. Starting to be quite deep. It's pretty nice, honestly. And the last interface is just going from whatever we had left to 1. So we just increase the size in the middle, but the beginning and end of our model is actually the same. We still embed, and we still like squeeze at the end. And now we have all of those module, convolution 1 of module 1, conv 2, module 2, and so on. Any question on those res block and high level? Do you all have some way to combine the res block together? Is it something that is kind of weird the way it is? Are there any questions in general? Zoom, whatever?
There is no question.
Okay.
Let's see.
Sharif, any question?
I don't understand.
So do you understand?
Actually, I have a question. So I've never seen this operator where there is 2 divided. Can you maybe explain me why sometimes it's 2 divided by 2 and then it's divided by 4 and 8? I'm not sure I understand.
Oh, really? So yeah, to remake it clear, so this works too.
Yes.
If I have a embedding dimension of 64, 64 divided by 2 is 32. But actually in Python, when you do this kind of division, you often get like a floating point number. So to really make sure that we have an integer, because, so this is why we do it.
I can see it's the same as the RNA underscore. So why are we putting it?
So the question, what is the question exactly? Why do we
Create this res block class.
Yes, it's just a nice way to encapsulate it into one module, because then all of this complexity is just in one line. Otherwise, all of this line will have to be replaced with all of these. We will just make the code very
So we created the res block and then call it inside the RNA units.
The RNet is the high-level class. In a sense, what we had before is instead of a res block, we had just a conv2D operation, convolution 2D.
Yeah.
You can see this res block as like a beefy version of the convolution 2D, something that has more layers, it's also more stable, it's better to stack. So just see this as a conv2D++, right? And then we just add a lot of them layer by layer.
And so where did you define the res block up there then?
So the res block,
So res block is.
yes. So I showed it very quickly when you came back, but yes, I will push all of this. I'm going to repeat myself. Let's try to move on. Really, we just keep adding more layers, and honestly, it would have been interesting to just try, instead of doing this res block, we could have tried just adding 20 convolution 2D to make it simple and just see. Maybe it won't break, maybe it's work. I have my doubts. So res block is a more stable block.
How long would that normally take to run?
Because your model is taking too slow to run.
Yes, and I'm scared that it's like not working. So, okay, so
You'll see.
because I wanted to like test it before doing a bunch of res blocks, I only did one module and then I directly am reducing it from 64 to 1, but now I'm realizing that maybe that's why it's not running, like,
No, it should run
should
pretty
it run?
fast. Yeah, we'll see it together. There might be a bug in somewhere. Let's check together. I just want to show you now that, so we have a pretty nice network and we might not change it much now. We might just, I think we're just gonna start playing with the hyperparameters. We have probably most of the code now. Two tricks that are gonna make a big difference. And I'm gonna show you a bit actually how it works. So I added a few parameters here, but let me just, so if you use the classic BCE logic loss, this is what you all have in your code probably. And we run the training loop. Well, we have a model that runs and it's pretty good, pretty deep, but we probably won't get like super good results still. So you see, it's definitely slower, but now F1 score is starting to be more than 0.0. We have some stuff that's happening. All right. Actually, I'm gonna remove the two tricks that are important. These two tricks, I just give them to you because these are kind of things as a lab we kind of discover over like weeks and months of experiments. So you see, it's pretty hard for the model, like kind of struggle at first, and eventually it might work well, but this kind of behavior is not ideal. If I was to plot the loss function and criterion, we'd have this plateau at the beginning and then suddenly a jump. This is usually a hint that something is wrong. And so the first thing you should check is the loss function. Actually, the first thing you should check in general is always plot whatever you predicted. PyTorch framework has this tendency to close you up in just metrics and loss and just numbers. But you really should check whatever you're predicting. Look at it. What do you guess? What is it weirdly doing? Are there any obvious mistake that the model is doing? And here, if we were to print it, you would see that at the beginning, the model is just always predicting 0 all the time. And it's a very good way for the model to get a good loss. If you remember the slides, those metrics we're trying to predict are extremely sparse. We have like mostly zeros everywhere and a few ones. So one thing the model will learn very quickly is that if I just predict zeros all the time, I'm gonna get a pretty good loss. And getting to the next step is super, like much harder, like really understand where to put the ones. So this is where this first trick comes in. And this loss function has a nice parameter called position weights, and it's just giving more weights to the class 0 or the class 1. It's not that position weight, it's positive weight, sorry. And here we're putting a pretty large number here, and it roughly corresponds to the ratio of 0s to 1. So there are very few ones, but they have much more weight in the loss function. So you can use this, and you have to give a whole tensor of one element. You can't just use 300 for some reason. So that's the first trick, and if we add this back, I think it's gonna already make it a bit more stable. Yeah, remove the other one. So you see now it's starting to increase right away, and kind of a nice, smooth increase. Really look at the F1 score, and that's the most interesting part. Why do I have to print? Oh shit. The second trick that I give you, well, I quickly talked about it in the slides, but we want the output matrix to be symmetric, and we might let just the model learn it, but we can also enforce the model to be symmetric. And so there is this operation. So you can do a matrix times its transpose is always going to be symmetric. Here, it's a bit more complicated than just a transpose because we have 3 dimensions. So we use this permute operation. At this point, output is n by L by L, right? What we want is just flipping those two dimensions that really correspond to all of the pairing matrix. We flip them with permutes. So permutes takes whatever dimension you want and replace them wherever you want. So if I do 0, 1, 2, this won't do anything because they're already in the same place. If I put maybe 0 to 1, this is flipping 2 and 1. You can dive into how permute works. It's not too complicated, but you can just use this operation to symmetrize outputs. It's still like a differentiable operation, so the model has no issue using it. And with this other trick, it's stabilizing even more the network. And what we want to really see is those very high F1 score. So here we might have been just unlucky, not a very good run. But in general, it seems our model is doing pretty well. We might start to increase a bit the batch size. Usually having a bigger batch size is going to also make the whole thing a bit faster because we parallel process it. So you see here we're almost reaching perfect score. Loss of 0, F1 score of 1. So once we have a few of these, we can move to the next step. And next step is, there's no code in the next step actually. It's just gonna be scaling up things. So you see we're a bit faster with a batch size of 8. Yeah, is everyone comfortable with all of this? Could you have all of this in your code soon? Like how far are we to all have some kind of F1 score of 1? You getting there? What is the max F1 score that you guys have at this point? What's the best F1 score you had so far?
Yeah.
Working on
Give us
it.
a second, or I have a question.
Yes?
I changed my runtime, like I tried to connect to a GPU and like the data's not loading now.
We'll see how to use the GPU soon.
But I want.
But on the CPU, it should run fast enough. You see, like on a few seconds of training. Like, and in general, in any problem, don't start any complexity, any GPU stuff until you don't have this kind of thing. If you cannot overfit on a super small training set, there is still something wrong in your whole pipeline. So this is like the end of the first chapter in the sense of this competition.
Well, first chapter.
Of many.
There are 10.
We've been working on this for 2 years, so there are many chapters. I can tell you. Yeah. At this point, what we're really interested in is starting to train with more data. So once we have the F1 score here, there are 2 important things we want to do. Train with more data and start to have some real metric. So what is missing here is a validation loop. Because of course we're gonna have very good results on the training sets. Now, how about the validation? So we're gonna have, this is actually the only code you have to write again. It's gonna be very similar to what you had before. How was it called? Validation? Valoader. So very similar loop. Actually, I might just even copy paste all of this. So we go over the validation loader, and those data we don't train on. They're new sequence we haven't seen, and let's check if we generalize. So we get the sequence structure, we do prediction, we compute the loss. This time we're not gonna do any learning on it. So all of this, we remove it. No optimizer step. So we just compute the loss forward, and we're gonna run the metric. So let's maybe call these train and valid. So we're now gonna have 4 metric. And yeah, same for here. And let's call it actually not metric, but just F1. Because we might want to use other metric at some point. Wink, wink. There are many other things. So now this is called loss train. And this is called F1 train. And this guy is like loss valid. And this is like F1. No. F1 valid. And that looks pretty good. What we're gonna also do. Yeah, so it's a lot of stupid code, but we're at this point where we start to really need good debugging outputs. So we're gonna try to log everything, print everything. What am I doing? Train loss F1 train. Yes, like this. And now what do we do? Loss, train losses, and we're gonna do. So it's all like very basic code, and my syntax is not very consistent. But bear with me. Okay, something like this, and valid losses. So this time you have to divide by the valid loader, valid data loader. Train. And last one, F1 valid. Is it clear what I'm doing? Just kind of boring, but everyone's following. Okay, so we used to just print whatever we had as training loss and F1 scoring, and now we're gonna actually save it in those guides to maybe study them later. Now we're just saving them. Loss train, so everything is initialized to 0. We do we sum them up, loss train, F1 train, loss valid, F1 valid, and then we divide it by the length of train, loss valid divided by ball loader, F1 train divided by train loader. Okay, looks good. And we can still print it, maybe the last, but we're gonna print the F1 core is really interesting part. So we're just gonna print the last one. And maybe the F1 valid, it's gonna be interesting too. And what we're interested in at this point is to keep those two guys really close to each other. Like they should not be diverging. So is it correct? This guy is useless. Okay, each epoch we have the last training and validation of ones. Yeah.
So I think on line 61, maybe just not to have one. But
Oh yeah. Yes, so after all of this boring code, we can check. We have good training results, but how good is the validation? Actually, it's extremely high, so there's probably something wrong. So I wanted to give a clear example of fitting, but
Did we just solve? That call Sylvie down.
so the fact that we're working on very, very small data sets, we might just have been lucky to be in exactly the same domain of training validation. So it's actually interesting this. It could mean that indeed this small model already learned like a very small domain of RNA structure, but it learned it really well. So even if the validation set has never been used for training, it still understands pretty well how very small structures work, smaller than 50. Or we just have a bug somewhere, that's also very possible. But widespread is this new X, we go over the validation data loader. This is all good, yes. So at this point, oh, I know what I wanted to do. Let's run a test loop and let's submit it. And let's see in practice how good our model is, right? Because our model is not too bad at this point. So validation loop, yeah, test loop. So you already have this piece of code, and for now it's just random code. So we can actually, what do? Well, we just do a model of X. I think I haven't tried this one actually yet. It'll be interesting. We might have to do some live debugging. So this loop is already going to print something and put it here. Like, yeah, testprint.csv, and I'll show you how to upload it. Super simple. So let's try that now. So look at this fancy. Yeah. So for those who are in VS Code and have the chance to use the debugger, please do, because it's like really life-changing. So the debugger is gonna pause here. Actually, see, I already used it a lot. Okay, so nice training. We're gonna pause at the red dots, and we're gonna be able to study our program at this intermediary step. So let's see a bit what is sequence. Sequence is just one data point. And if I do model of sequence, yeah, there's probably something that is still not completely perfect. So what is the problem? Probably that just sequence, as you see, is just one sequence. It's not batched, and all of our architecture has been built around batches. So what we can do is and squeeze, and now we have something. And let's take a shape. Yeah, a batch of one and one sequence of size 23 by 33. And I've seen this one for so long because this is a usual test set, and I know that the first element of the test set is a size 23, so I know this is looking pretty good. So we're gonna do that instead, and maybe we're gonna re-squeeze it. It's a bit ugly, but honestly, yeah, this looks great. So up now, remove the shape. It's a bit better. And so if structure, yeah, that should actually be running well. So let's actually just try to retrain it. Upload. Yeah, debugger is much more convenient than just printing stuff and figure out things. Highly recommend it. Well, that was ambitious, maybe. Oh, yeah. Structure should be of integer type. Yes, because you actually, interesting. So Casper, actually, we don't threshold them ourselves, right?
Sorry, say again.
I don't think we threshold the structure ourselves, actually. Yeah, we don't. These are all checks. We already expect it to be binary matrix. So let's show you how it's working. Yeah, all of this, sorry, should have been provided. This, something like this would work. So yeah, this is, you don't just copy paste this line, but we're comparing all of the, this is like probability, continuous probabilities between 0 and 1. When we do this operation, more than 0.5, we're gonna have like a binary, a Boolean matrix. Is it or not more than 0.5? And then we cast it back to int. So to have 0 or 1 or true and false. Okay. And let's try to go a bit faster this time. And what I just want to show you is that every time actually this guy has been updated. So those predictions are going to be changing, and then we just drag and drop. Do we have an error again? No, we have no error. Perfect. So this is running, and now let's do training. Then in the meantime, so you have access to the Kaggle. Is everyone on the Kaggle? Has some accounts? You need just one per team for now, but yeah, keep this in mind. So you're gonna go and submit prediction, and you can just drag and drop this file once it's generated. So yeah, we should have something new here. And yeah, I have no idea if it's good. Let's try it. So it's here. Yeah, so this one was just generated now for PM13. We upload and we submit. And let's see, Kaggle is gonna automatically score it. So this was like a random prediction. So hopefully our small model is slightly better than a random prediction. Maybe it's gonna take 1 minute or something. But yeah, try to have something like this. You're very close to be able to overfit on small data sets. So this is maybe a better example of overfitting. So it's interesting, the validation data loader is not always a good way to see if you are overfitting, especially if the validation is on the very same domain. Here, the same length. The test set here that we use is a bit more interesting. That's length up to like 500 or something, much more challenging. So now we're gonna start to, this is where we don't have much more coding. It's just about playing with parameters and scaling up things small bits by bits. And I think with length 70 is gonna start to be quite slow, and we're gonna start moving to the GPU soon. But yeah, for now, try to have this overfitting work. Try to run a little validation loop to just see how things go. And yeah, you see it's much slower. And then use that that last piece of code at the end to upload your first prediction. It's gonna be like 0 like me, but it's fine. Let's just try to see how it goes. And once we're all there, we move to the GPU. Okay? Yes. And this validation of loss is still very high. So what is the complexity between the length and the memory consumption? Do we have any idea?
Between the what?
So as I increase the length, how does the memory consumption and like processing time, how is it changing?
Exponential increase.
It's not exactly exponential, it's increasing a lot, but it's not exponential.
It becomes computationally expensive to run because it's
It is,
data centers.
it is, but what is the low? Is it like linear increase, quadratic increase, exponential increase? We have a sequence of stuff. It's not a log, unfortunately. So as we, if it was just one sequence that we process, as the sequence gets longer,
Be linear.
it would be linear. But now we don't work with one sequence, we work with a pairing matrix. So it's L by L.
So it's a square.
It's a square. So actually going from 50 to 100 is doubling the length and multiply by 4 the compute power and memory. And you're gonna quickly go to bucket bottleneck. I think on my CPU I cannot go to 100. Or you might need to start reducing the batch size. So as soon as it works well on 50, 60, 70, we're gonna move to GPU. All right?
Is that code on GitHub?
And I'm gonna put it.
Yes.
Cool. No more question on Zoom too?
Let me check again. Question on Zoom.
When is that time?
Revert by changes and go back to 0. Together we will do it. No cheating. So the goal is to add that our code to the GPU. And actually the first step is not even going to be on this code. First step is we go to this wonderful website called Vast. So first step is everyone go on Vast. So they actually are sponsors, but we've been using them for months and months. The great thing about this is that they provide very easy to use GPU and very powerful because these are not server GPU. They are consumer grade GPUs. And those have very good prices for their performance. So that's why we've been using them. And so you can go on vast.ai. And first step is maybe create an account actually. We're gonna go over this all together. So go there, then on-demand pricing. Actually, first step would be create an account somewhere, sign in, whatever.
Should I make an account or should I use Sylvie's account?
Yeah, all of you create an account. And I will send all of you some credits. And I will try to sell it live. You can do it. And you can send me, where can you send it to me?
On Slack?
Yes. But first of all, create an account. And then send to me on Slack your email address that you use for Vast.ai. And I will send you some credits to be used.
Oh, thank you.
If you go first step, go on search. And on search, you're gonna have all of these options. And basically what you're gonna focus on today are those simple GPU called RTX 3090s. So you can select it, NVIDIA, RTX, 3000 series, and then 3090s.
Could you repeat that?
Actually, you know what, let's take the 4090s, guys. This is a bit crazy. So let's go on the 4000 series. And let's take the 4090s. They're more powerful, a bit more expensive, but it's kind of light, so we won't use them for as much time. Let's see, so you see all of these, and we have a lot and a lot of these. So this is the great thing about this provider. You're never running out of GPUs. And those are actually quite close to the A100 that a lot of people are talking about. Less memory for sure, but in terms of processing power, they're really fast. You can maybe say North America or wherever you live in, so you have better ping, bit faster connection. You can click on 1x because we don't want any cluster for now. I would advise to go around 60 gigabytes. I'm not sure what kind of image do you have, but definitely try to get the PyTorch image. So if you go here, get PyTorch latest, not any of those, I'm not really sure. It's basically gonna give you some preloaded, pre-installed machine. Maybe around 60 gigabytes, not run out of it. Because those are consumer level, I highly recommend to select pre-high reliability. So 99% is a good threshold. And you see they're all basically the same prices. I usually don't take the cheapest one. They're usually the bad ones. There is obviously no way to avoid that. So here the median seems to be around 31, maybe a bit more. So I will just take this one. So you can just click on rent one of them that looks good. And it's been requesting, and now you can see you should have one. So I already had one before, it's already open, and one that just click on should be like here creating. So has everyone clicked on one?
Yes.
Everyone is creating a GPU now?
Mhm.
Okay.
So I just edit image.
What did you say?
I think it's
So the templates, what do you have here? Not template, search. In search, what do you have here?
And here, I'm trying to figure out.
What is it written? Is it PyTorch?
Yeah, I'm just lowering it.
There's nothing, okay?
Yeah, just like, I think there was something else you said to do.
Also, I'm going to let us know if it's new for everyone. See if someone else needs also some credits. If you ask to
I had the same issue when I opened.
otherwise,
I don't know.
on on Slack. What did you do?
So I had initially clicked like over here by accident, and I meant to click here. And then there's like a recommended tab.
Does everyone has a GPU with the PyTorch, like PyTorch. Just click on it. Yeah, it's clicked, it's selected. Yeah, image PyTorch like PyTorch is good. Is the template? Where is the template? I don't know any templates. Quite different. What do you guys have?
Oh, 60?
Yeah, maybe don't. Just to be sure. So it all works for you guys. Sherry, can you just reload? Okay. So now you just rent one of them that is
Yeah, I think that's
at an average price. Yeah, this is brilliant. So take a bit more space,
Yeah.
storage,
Select.
select
Wait, after you asked if you could choose it right now.
39.
And then
What
I
is it?
choose a right now. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, PyTorch is what I think is on
And
it.
then you can have the Mary hat. Oh, we're under.
And so now,
This is great. You've got so many options and it's an
Exactly. what a great provider.
You've got like multiple templates that you can select from.
Exactly. So many GPUs.
Yes, plus you can exactly find how much memory you want to have. It's nice.
Yeah.
Fahad, yes, I received your email address. Let me send you some money.
Oh, no.
Who doesn't have a GPU in their instances?
Like, should we click rent?
In instances, yeah, click rent on one of them once you have all of the good options. So 4090, 60 gigabyte, high reliability, proper image, and correct price. Around, yeah, try to get $0.03 per hour. So that sounds like a fair price. And now I don't know which one is my, oh, wait, so this one is your one.
Yes.
All good? Can we move to the next step? Who needs a bit more time? Sheriff?
Okay, I'm gonna help you.
Thanks. Who has an open button now?
I have a loading button.
Okay, I'm loading.
His is the.
It's coming.
It's coming also for sure.
Okay, then all agree, guys.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep. One X. And then all of that. Right. Yeah, upwarding.
And then any of this.
Yeah, I think you just said not the absolute cheapest. Yeah, these are fine, there are some that are even cheaper or worse, but that's sort of happening, so. Yeah, as long as I think it's, 30 to 40 cents. Probably.
It's your money, choose what you want.
I want to.
Okay, so those of you who have been lucky, you can click open just to try. So there is a web version, so if you really want a very quick setup, and they'll have some like notebook. Actually, you could run within the notebook if you really want to be naughty. But yeah, you could.
Is this bad?
Could you get those together? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, do you want me to go on a private?
Go to advanced.
Yeah, I mean, like, I know how to bypass it, but should I?
That's kind of.
What is the problem? I just like.
Privacy error when we're trying to connect.
Mine is still impressive. What's in it happening?
I think you will have this or interesting.
I would maybe refresh, just cause like, what if someone here like grabbed it before you got it?
I also have it.
Yeah, as long as this instance is still 0, you haven't gotten anything yet.
I mean, you can actually go on it, you just like.
I know I can.
Yeah,
But should I?
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Oh.
Yeah, of course.
It's all very safe.
Are we just going for it?
Yeah, so click advanced and then proceed to unsave.
So just for Prati,
Yeah.
to explain quickly. So Prati, you can send me your email address. So first go on Vaz.ai, create an account, and send me your email address that you use for it. You'll have to probably validate the email address at some point in your email. And then send me your email address. I'll send you some money so you can start running one GPU. Who has some weird access issues, security access issues?
We just decided to bypass it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Prati, send me your email address.
And then proceed. And we're all just gonna hope we're fine.
It just looked different.
Oh, yeah. Probably the information is different.
You just open a terminal?
Yes, so when you open it, you should get something like this home, and you can, if you want, you can quickly just create a new notebook, terminal, whatever. I just created whatever, I think console. So this is really a machine. This is really GPU that is like 1,000 kilometers away, and I just put it for you, and has, in theory, a GPU that I'm gonna show you now. So you can create a console if you want and use the NVIDIA-SMI command, and voila. We have a very cool GPU connected to this machine, as this command shows. This is the classic thing I would do, and it has like 24.5 gigabytes of memory, and for now almost nothing is used. And yeah, just a quick check that everything is working well. But today we're not gonna really use that. It's just a quick check to see that everything is working well.
Yeah.
Very slow.
And then into the SSH key.
we need to do that.
I was in the, I was in a couple.
Yes, we try.
For this random reason, like no one knows about.
Yeah, hope it does.
Yeah, some people need like 5 comments.
Is it pop-up?
By the way, I put all of those information here in the slide if you
Yeah, what she
forget.
said about them.
I had it open.
You have 7 from open somewhere, so I'm gonna shut them all down.
Thanks. They're just open.
Yeah, I see it pop up.
Oh.
Okay, so the combination of our skills, we will figure it out. It's like, well, okay, I guess I had a hard time with that, but.
Okay, who doesn't have a GPU that has an open button? Daniel, you don't have a GPU right now?
He's got
Is it good? Okay.
No, so after, like, would it be NVIDIA dash something is?
NVIDIA SMI.
I know, you can just check it out later, so.
But, I mean, it doesn't matter much. Let's move on. Next step.
Yeah.
Next step, we're gonna connect, we're gonna authenticate your machine to VAST. So now your machine can really access the GPU at will. Because for now, we're just kind of limited in the browser, it's a bit annoying. So we want to have deep integration of VAST in your machine. So well, maybe you're just gonna copy paste those commands actually. So this is a way to generate SSH key, and we're gonna load it into VAST. So you can type this command, SSH key JNT RSA, and it's gonna say enter a passcode or something like this. Just enter every time until you generate something. It's gonna create some kind of weird art in the terminal. So actually this is for Linux Macs, huh? Mac, I don't know how do we do it for Windows. Okay, well for Windows guys,
Sorry, how did you get to this FAQ page?
sorry we just, press sorry.
I'm using WSL. If you again, if I'm not because they're like, okay, just maybe we're gonna.
Well, for Windows user, we're gonna have to dance a bit more. There is this other link I never tried.
Okay, it seems to be similar.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be similar in the PowerShell. I mean, just try. Daniel and Sheriff, you have Windows machine.
Yeah.
Let's just try it. When you run this in the PowerShell, does it work? Do you see what's written?
Okay. Oh, I have to run that on PowerShell.
Yeah, try it. Let's see what it does. So it's gonna ask you like to give a passcode and a place to run it. Just press enter without doing anything, and it's just gonna keep going with the default parameters. Okay, once you have this, you can try doing the next command, ssh-add and ssh-adds-l.
Wait, how do we access that page?
I'll
send it to the
it's on the slides, and then you need to find the.
Yes, and then SSH.
SSH key not recognized as equal incidents. PowerShell.
Wait, did you do the first command?
Okay,
SSH
now
key?
you're gonna have to walk me through, it was NVIDIA.
Basically, you just need to do those 3 commands, and it's gonna print in the terminal a very long weird chain. And this is the passkey.
You do what on this?
It's asking enter a file.
Yeah, I told you, whatever it's asking you for the first command, just press enter. You don't need to do anything. It's just gonna do it automatically. It's gonna put it in the right place.
Okay.
So don't enter anything, just press enter.
So just press, so for both like the file and the passphrase?
Yeah, everything. For the first command, just press enter until you're done.
It worked on my computer.
Yeah, you should have some kind of weird art.
Yeah. The second one is it?
I typed SSH.
Should get an error, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the second.
And then just press enter.
So this one
Okay.
doesn't work, I should press it.
And then, okay, so.
And then, yeah, no, not going. Yeah, so from there.
It's a window device, I don't know why this one's not open.
And then enter the next
I'm
one.
sure it's
Okay. Yeah,
No,
and
there
then
you
I
go.
enter that.
I'm not looking, but I'm sure it's.
Once you have this key,
And
this is good, yeah.
there you go, and that's all. You guys are so slick for this.
This is dash L. Okay, and then, yeah, press enter. Wait, maybe for Windows it's slightly different, sorry, slightly different.
Yeah, it's still like.
I think that's 6 cents. It's a little bit complicated to.
Oh, I think that we would add, this goes to VS. Right.
Do you want
Are you logged in with account on VS? The studio, or you just, do we have to do that?
So, who has these kind of things? When you do like the cat, you should get and print like this. Who had an error at this step, like when you do the SH add?
Is that the fingerprint?
You're gonna have to accept whatever they say, they ask you to do, so.
Yeah, we're actually right now.
Might need to.
Are you in cybersecurity expert now?
Wait,
Right.
you know you still have it, right?
Send that way.
Yeah.
There's Windows
Just
instructions.
press enter, just sign it all out.
I just did the match on the network.
He's in the Mac ones.
Isabella?
Yeah.
Oh, yo.
Yeah, I did the first step.
I don't- I think so, I don't
The
know.
second.
Which step are you in? Did you try the keygen?
Open.
I think so, I don't know, yeah, it's
Because you
good.
have to,
I should have showed you what it's doing.
oh, I was able to do it in
Ah, no.
the terminal, but.
You do this on your computer, right? Not on the.
In the
on
Like
terminal?
in.
Oh, sorry, yeah, guys,
Yeah, exactly. They all did it on the terminal of the machine.
Like I literally just.
Which makes sense.
Well,
Like when.
it's an interesting
Like the battery
experience,
died,
well,
I
it's
opened-
kind of useless.
Wait, you want me to
No,
open
No,
up
it's
the
okay,
terminal?
yeah, I won't.
Oh, you're supposed to do this in a
And I
terminal
really
on our
just-
personal
like,
or?
just-
Sorry, yes.
Like,
A shock?
yeah, Sean, it was a weird one.
Let's uncouple these two things.
But he was not shocking me.
The website version is just a quick check.
Yeah, it's terminal.
So you have to do this, but on your own terminal.
So
Yeah,
what
okay.
Whoa.
Thanks, girl.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not even opening a
So
terminal.
copy these commands
Yeah,
I
exactly.
did.
So we do exactly the same procedure.
So same step on your machine, and try to get this. So Cat's gonna print SSH key text in your terminal of your machine.
Yeah, go to
Yeah, so you
console.
can copy directly here.
And once you have this, you copy this thing.
What do we not use the cat?
You're gonna
You
have
have
to do
to
that.
also-
Yeah, you do 1, 2, then the
Oh, no,
third
this is
command,
not the
and
right
this is
one.
just basically gonna print something like
Is
this.
this one?
But you'll have a different key.
Okay.
So once it's printing something with your email address at the end,
Enter.
you can copy
Yeah.
paste it.
Enter
Yeah,
it.
you can, yeah.
Mine
Enter
says
again.
no file or
Again.
directory.
No, you're fine. This one.
Oh, so we only need this, right?
So this
Because,
is your own template, right?
yeah,
this
so
one you're gonna
when
need
I,
to save.
I haven't, I pasted this in, but.
Yes, and then you can
I think
copy
I'll leave it in
exactly
this.
So.
Cause that's like a weird name.
I think yes, but you need to first, did you do this comment?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
how I
you
got
try
her
this.
for this and this.
Okay, and then
Wait.
And then you're gonna.
Okay, yeah, that works.
You just decide notes, like just like you guys, I go to work, I can't. Word is fine, word is fine.
actually, I'm gonna open it.
This is the thing, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, great.
Word,
So
yeah,
you take the
like,
Yeah, I like it, the dark one.
I didn't know that. Okay. No, it's just in case, but go back to the website,
RSA.
then you can go and thank it on console.
Awesome, so just press enter, enter.
Yes. Okay. Then you're gonna click on account, and then on the right, add SSH key. You can go to the space, and then you can add it.
So,
Thank
Now you did it.
Yay, thank you.
Really cool.
So now, how do I? Okay.
Yeah.
How do I, is there
when you were doing this, did you just?
already like?
No, you're not already. There will be more steps, like, okay, it's almost done. But
Okay.
because, no, the cool thing now is that
Oh,
like,
so you know, you.
if you ever use Fast again,
like.
now like any queue that you want to connect to it will then redirectly be connected to it.
Oh,
So this is long things of yours.
okay, thank you.
You have to work or?
Casper.
Oh, so you know who did you that?
No.
So when so we didn't save it anywhere, so like I just literally just skipped this step and just went right to here.
Example.
Yes, yeah, this is like, you may need to, and I guess we didn't need to. So I just like did
I
that.
think it's your sharing from Daniel. I think one of the
Okay,
guys
what do we
who
do
were
with
saying
that?
that-
That's mine.
Yeah. So whenever you have a number,
I saw it falling down and it's okay.
go back to your Vast AI account. And if you go in accounts, you can have some SSH key. So I have a shit ton of them, but you should have 0 for that. And you're just gonna do like add SSH key and print the entire thing. So it's gonna be SSH RSA, this long weird thing, and then your email address or something like this. Copy the entire thing that was printed in the terminal. And then add. That's it. So you see the SSH key. They should all have SSH-RSA, the long thing, and then the name of the computer. Here is Casper's key. So Casper at Casper, etc.
Thank you for sharing my key to everyone.
Time to take a picture, guys.
Exactly, got it. I just spelled $30.
But don't copy more things.
Close everything. Oh, humorous. It's almost 5 grand.
They wanted to whatever.
Oh.
Wait, did you just do anything to put your name at the end? Like for your, is that what you're saying, like, it has?
So,
How much?
this is what it looks like. It looks different.
Everything you guys are credit.
Oh, that looks so much nicer. Okay, so it's, I guess, the same syntax, but just obviously different. Like but yeah, okay. I'm just gonna assume line that's like our.
Ended year's beginning of dip. Oh, actually, delete that key because I don't need it anymore and it's not worth losing money over.
Happy to help, what you got?
Yeah, exactly. Guys, again,
What took us?
it's not in the terminal of the GPU. It's not in the terminal of the browser. It's in It's on the terminal of your own machine.
Oh, it's so funny. I
Yeah.
What were terminals are kind of really weird. I've never done that. And I was like,
Just
okay,
check that.
because we were.
I already wasted all of that cents.
I was making it on the Jupyter terminal, but then it
So this is the terminal of my machine. And I don't know if you can see, probably not super well, but I just copy pasted the key. And if I run it, it's gonna tell me, do you really want to connect? I say yes. And here I go. This is actually a terminal of the GPU. So I can also run again and read that as semi. And here we go. I don't have a 4090 connected to this guy. This is really the GPU. What did you what? So you go to your instances and click on this, and you should have a direct SSH connect somewhere. This is a command you can copy paste. Yeah, open SSH interface. Open is just to open in the browser, but it's very limited. And here is to really get control. Yes, this entire thing you have to copy it and paste it in your terminal. And if you set the SSH correctly, yeah, you have two. This is kind of like the backup connection. Try the direct one. If one doesn't work, try the other one. And it's gonna say, do you want to connect? You type yes, you're in. Who is in? So for those who can connect, well done. For the other unfortunate people, we have still this. So you can just create a notebook. And I mean, the way you guys, so either from the terminal, this is starting to be kind of messy. We put that up.
Yeah, add studio.
So
Oh, okay.
is it? So what you could try is just, so we could try to do it on the website if it doesn't work. Anyway, clone this repo. This repo is not very complete with a full training loop, so you can completely use it. So either on the terminal of the websites or on your own terminal, if you can connect to it, you should reach these points and have access to the GPU. And one other thing, not much is installed, so you can do git clone the GitHub link. And actually, it's an SSH, so I'm not sure it's gonna work. Yeah, you should actually use the HTTPS link. So git clone. Where is it? Yeah, let me show you on the website. So git clone the HTTPS link. And what the hell? Why do I need? Ah, wait. Oh, this is not the private. This is the private one. Sorry. Is it?
Git clone that worked for me. I did git clone and the HTTPs.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the wrong GitHub repo. Sorry. Give me a minute. What? We need the NextEpoch one. Yeah. This one should work. And now if you type ls, you have your repo. So let's do it manually for now. You can do cd. And here you go. You have the repo.
On the terminal.
And this is a repo ready to train on, and with the GPU. We're gonna see how do we update it to have the GPU running. At this point, it might be a bit of a trouble to use the terminal. So let's see if the Jupyter can, the notebook can work with us. I'm kind of curious to see that. So if we go here and we create a new notebook, I wonder if it will have access to the repo. Yes. Do something like this. From source.data. Import get data loaders. Does this work? It does work. Okay, good. Good. So that would be a way to do it. Yes, it's really the best way. So we have a backup solution for all of the people who could not access with their terminal. You're gonna do this. You're still gonna use the terminal on the website to git clone, and then use the Jupyter notebook as the main script, training script. Yeah, well, there isn't much to see now. Just so you git clone this. So go on the repo. Go on the repo I have. I'm gonna send it again. Come on. Does this work?
Yeah.
Send this.
Yeah, just.
Okay, this is the command as just said. I just sent it on Slack, the git clone command on the general channel. So do this on the GPU terminal, and then that's about it. And you can also go inside. So cd, where is it? cd NextEpoch structural competition. And last step of installation is gonna be a pip install -r requirements, and this should install all of the things you need because it's a fresh machine. So this can be done by everyone, actually. And then some people will go on VS Code and some people will go on the notebook. And yeah, that looks pretty good. That looks good. So if we go back to the Jupyter, I'm gonna reload this. Okay, so now we work. So it's gonna be a bit sketchy, but you can just basically copy paste the entire training loop in this notebook. It's gonna be your high level thing, and it's gonna still rely on the backend that is.
So we're not using VS Code.
For those who cannot, try that, but it's a bit sketchy and it's gonna be a bit annoying for you. For those who can use VS Code, I'm gonna show you it's much better. I mean, do whatever you want actually. Actually, you can just double click on train.py. Wait, does this work? No. How can I run it? Well, whatever. What I would do, just copy paste this training loop in the notebook, and that's about it.
Walk me through how you like.
I literally just logged in.
Maybe let's all do that, so I don't lose too much time showing you also how the VS Code setup works.
So you want us to use the
Yes. So did you see how you open this VS Code, this notebook? You go on your GPU. Why do I have 3 GPU now? Ah, that's Casper. Yeah. And you click open on your GPU, which is gonna lead you to here.
Okay.
And then create a new terminal on your console or whatever. Create a new terminal. And inside the terminal, you git clone and you pip install. Who has the installation done?
Git clone.
So the git clone is on Slack.
Wait, I ran all that stuff on my terminal.
Of your machine? Well, it's not gonna be very. I mean, it's nice, but then we don't have any GPU. But it's
Wait, I
still.
thought you had.
No.
I thought the vast AI thing is open here.
No. It depends which terminal.
Okay, so, okay, this is for idle steps, just that freezing. Like,
This one.
So happens.
Yeah, whatever. You go, once you cloned it, you should have it. So you go inside of it, cd NextEpoch, whatever. So you do cd next and you tab to let it autocomplete.
Okay.
And then you do pip install -r requirements tab to autocomplete. So he's gonna go over this file to install all of the thing he wants. And I already just installed it, so he's just gonna fuck off.
Yeah, it's gonna be a bunch.
She uses her external token.
So what happens when?
No, it's not, it's just something running on this.
When this works, you're basically installed. You can directly run it. So you could even run it from here. Python. Do we have Python? Yes, Python frontend is good. Python train.py. So this will run, but it's not very convenient to update the code and all. So that's why we're gonna go over the notebook.
So we're going to copy and paste.
What did you say?
Copy and paste.
Yes, we're gonna do the other technique. But you see, it's running all of the import work well. Should get that. And then we're on CPU still. We're not using yet the GPU. So it's still gonna take a long time. Okay, we need the first epoch. So at this point, we could. Once you have this on the terminal, you could. We can just jump to the next. Okay, you can even close this page to close this terminal. So next step is copying the entire. So you should still have this page open.
There you go.
First, who has the installation done and could run Python train.py?
Wait, what?
We could rerun it.
Pip install requirement worked, right?
Yeah.
And did you try Python train.py? And it seemed to run a few epochs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect case. So you should still have this web page open. So you can double click on train.py and just copy paste this entire thing. Copy this entire thing. Go to File, New, Notebook. So you should be somewhere here. You copy paste the entire notebook, the entire script in one cellule of the notebook. Actually, while we are at it, we might just optimize this a bit better. So maybe let's keep all of this in one cell, so we don't need to reload every time, which is the long part. So do you have the code, guys, in a notebook?
Yes.
So you can run this first thing. This is training, it's kind of slow, it's kind of useless to keep it running all the time. And then test loop, we can also make it in another cell, I guess. Yeah, so now we have loading, training, and testing. This is a bit slow.
So,
Yeah. We just did it.
yeah, both, yeah. I split at for the words like hashtag training loop. And then again at hashtag test loop.
Howard?
I'm using Sylvia's account.
So you see this what?
Okay, so. See into it.
I added my SSH key to Sylvia's
And
account,
then
that's where I
who,
Well,
should be good to go.
yeah, we still have
So it's
some people who.
Oh, it's
We're gonna use this. Just go set up. Yeah, it's cool. But
If that doesn't work.
to our yeah, that's it. Yeah.
If it doesn't work.
There's no slide. Okay.
Everyone has some code in the notebook. So you should run that. Run it. It's gonna take a few seconds, and then yeah, same. We can run it just cell just to see if
Yeah, just.
it's still doing the training. But right now, we're gonna move to converting this to GPU code, and you'll see it's actually very simple. We just need to cast a few things. Actually, as a reference, it's still in the slides. At the end of the slide, actually. Yeah, if you forget this, it's just here. So we already know what device we are in. It should already be in the code, and we're gonna move the model to the device, move the input, move the loss function, and that's about it. So if we go back here, yeah, this is training, this is working well. So let's kill this guy. I don't know how to kill it actually.
Yes, that's it.
Well, that's a bit too hard. How do we just stop this cell?
I think you interrupt the kernel, you don't restart it, you just interrupt it.
Okay. Okay. So in this cell, what do we have? The model first needs to go to device. So do dot to device. And actually, maybe the first thing to do is to check.
Yeah.
But if everything is correct, if you type device here, you should get the CUDA device. This is the critical element. And this was, you got this automatically from this line. Either CPU or CUDA.
Wait, I installed everything on the terminal, but now on Jupyter, like, I don't know if the modules are actually on the.
The git clone?
Yeah, I did, so I did it on the terminal, but I also had to do it on Jupyter.
No, it's okay, on Jupyter fine.
So the Jupyter,
We just create the training.
Yeah, I just copy pasted
Actually, you're good, so you can.
the code. And I don't know why it's control.
You wanna open a new one, a new one?
No, you're good. No, I just wanted to close
Yeah,
that.
I didn't know
And
that
so
here.
now, you can just open, so like file, new,
Notebook?
yes.
Should I stop it?
And then, if you go back
So I
to
have
your,
to,
like,
okay, so I have
this
to run the
big shooter where you can see the file and stuff.
It's a select kernel.
Yep, yeah, three.
who has this cell running?
And then, do I copy?
Nice.
I just had to first like CD into the NextEpoch
Yes.
folder, so I could get to the source folder.
I think even when you're here and you select the file, or you might just click on NextEpoch structure competition and then you open a file, and then it might open, like here, you created a notebook in the same place as the train.py.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
then all of the imports work because these two files are the same place. Yeah, sorry, there's something I might go over too quickly. You first need to go into the repository before creating the notebook. So you see the notebook is here. It's in the same place as train.py. If you don't, I guess those imports gonna have to be slightly modified. So yeah, just
Because again, when you make this, yeah, you need to be inside of the,
yeah, when you create the notebook. So the notebook should be created here. Who doesn't have this cell running yet?
Which one?
The first cell of the code. So you should copy paste the code in a one notebook cell. Copy paste it and run it. It's gonna take a few seconds, but it should run. If you have an error somewhere, you have an error? Are you good? Okay. And Daniel will, yeah, Pierre will take care of you. I will show you quickly. So device is CUDA. You've moved the model to device. What else do we need? The criterion, to device, because this is an operator. So we need all of our operation and our data on the same device, GPU or CPU. So the model is all of the operation, but the loss function is also an operation. And then we also need the data itself. So in the training loop, where you get X and Y, you can also do to device and Y also to device. So that would work well, but we also need the validation loop to device. Okay, so now we have all of the data and all of the operation. And I think that should run it.
Is it just the model to the side?
No,
No.
And you see now it's way faster.
yes.
So I can train on a few seconds instead of 1 or 2 minutes.
Could you scroll back up to just the, where you change the model?
Yeah, so model, you just add 2 device, criterion 2 device. We're just casting all of these operators and data to device. You also have X and Y in the training loop and X and Y in the validation loop.
That's the only thing you change.
Yeah.
Because I had that
So you
expected all things is to be the same.
Yeah, so this happens very often if you forget one part to put to device. So make sure that you have X, Y, model and criterion all on the device. You should have 6 to device.
Yeah.
And then, have so much here, yeah, training loop.
Can you show me the first cell, Isabelle?
One for. Doesn't matter.
Can you show me the first cell?
I'll put these, just a data loader, so we don't have to run it too many times.
Okay, and where
Is
did
that quick this out?
so you haven't changed the first cell, right?
No, it's literally,
Devices for criterion, optimizer, model.
yeah, model, criterion, XY of the training loop, XY of the validation loop.
Dot TO, same line. As like a G, function, so dot TO and then parentheses device.
Yeah, you can use it somewhere.
Yes.
It's a very classic
And for
error.
model criterion. and then-
Yeah. Okay.
Good point. So just the first two.
So the other thing is, I separated also the test loop in a separate cell, and this test loop also has to be on device now.
Device as well. So it's a total of 6 lines, so I have a report batch.
Okay.
So guys, don't forget,
The second,
in the test loop, if you put this in the same cell, you need also to do 2 device of the sequence, because the model is on GPU.
Makes sense.
So there are 7 2 device to do total.
Structure, which one, right?
So the sequence is the input, has to be on device.
So, this what happens to
Actually.
What is it, if you don't have a desktop? Well, you could just connect to it and just run your code directly. So the 2 device is the same. The only thing that changes is always just the connection. Here we have GPU that is like miles away from us, and so we need to have this SSH connection.
so yeah, like you said, there's
If your
7
piece is running on GPU, you still have to put the.
Yeah, that's 2 device.
It's just model and, it's not an optimizer, just criterion, sorry.
Okay, I think it ran, yeah,
could have
it's
been.
running.
Okay, so who could run this and who saw like significant speed up? Sounds good? Okay, guys, we're in a really good position now because we can start scaling the shit out of this. So well done. So first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna train on 100 long sequences.
I think I copied the first line.
So hop là, this can get out of this. Yeah, so again, 100 sequences. Actually, I'm gonna do maybe 32 batches.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of.
I'm not.
but not in this. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we can just start playing with the parameters, making things bigger. The model is already really big and actually might be a bit too big. So we're probably not gonna touch much the model. We're just gonna increase the number of data points and the length of the data points. Yes, so let's start with that. That should be actually a bit slower, roughly 4 times slower, basically. Yeah, and actually what you see here, there used to be like a warning here saying we don't have enough data, but here we don't. Now we're training on up to 100 length. So training loss should be, like the F1 score shouldn't be super good now. It's starting to be pretty hard for the model. Because we're starting to train on real sequences now. Up to 100, it's starting to be interesting. And we just have 1,000 data points. So next step, get more data. So 5,000. So am I going too fast?
That's like, to 100, so. Just that, you have 0.53, my maximum was like.
Yeah, you might have very slightly different.
Wait, guys, how come mine's so fast?
So get more data, get longer sequences, and restart training. And now it's to be a bit slower. But it's still like very, very fast by classic standard. And so we have around 20,000 data points, so we can scale this up little by little. And I would recommend to try 100, maybe to 200. You can play with this.
Yeah.
But before scaling up too much, what we're gonna do is look a bit, how is our training going? And one thing we haven't really touched yet is those metrics. We just look at them by eyes, but it's really by plotting them that we're gonna see what can we get out of this training. So let's plot them. I mean, I think PyPlot is imported, is installed here. So let's just try to import. Let's just see if it's here. Yes. So here we see also, we're at 51 with 1,000 data points. We're at 75, 77 with 5,000. Saying to be more serious. So with this exact configuration, I was able to get a pretty good test result on the leaderboard. So actually, who has arrived to this point? So some pretty good performance with around 100 lengths.
My heart is nice as yours.
Oh, really?
And then it goes down. It goes
Shit.
0.58 and then it goes down to 0.42.
Did you try batch size 32?
I went up to 50 because my 32 was at 0.21.
50? Oh, batch size?
Mm-hmm.
That's very not normal. So we usually do powers of 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Hours of 2. I'll just rerun 30.
Yeah, try 32, max 100, and just rerun it. I have 5,000 data points here. Yeah. That's about it. So try to get that, and then what we're gonna do, let's generate the test. So this is gonna go over all test sets, and if you go back to your home, I guess it's gonna be here. Yeah, 4 seconds ago we generated this. So how can we download this now? Download. Ah, excellent. Where did it go? So once you run the final cell, you should get some outputs. And then where should I go? Here. Let's do another. Well, you're gonna be very similar. Actually, we have. Ah, someone has been playing a bit with. Yeah, you can submit a prediction.
Actually, I didn't know that I was so high.
Yeah, this is the one I just did. Oh, she haven't done it yet. That is not correct.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's correct actually.
I went out of memory.
Ah, yeah, you can't go too high of batch size, huh?
Yeah, I think I went a bit too high on max health.
Yeah, so generate the test prediction, download it, and then re-upload it on Kaggle. And
Download it again.
so you go back to home, I think, and then you Yeah, it's a few words. Whatever.
Once you run the last cell, it should just run this as the folder for the competition. Yeah, it's the only one that's in the CSV.
So at this point, we all have like similar performance, and some might be a bit lucky. At this point, you might be actually really lucky. We have large gap. Gonna start to scale this up. One thing I want to show is a bit what does it look like when we plot the training losses. So we're gonna do. Ah, no, to complete. So bad. Training losses. Yeah.
The dash 32 works for you?
32 works for me, yeah.
Let's go into that.
Such a child.
I have a 4090. I don't have a 3090.
So,
You can reduce the batch size.
32 batch size, 100 length, 5,000 data.
5,000?
Yeah.
We can just
Yeah,
do
we're
that.
paying the big bucks here. Get my 35 cents worth of it.
That's right.
Okay.
Wait, what do you think is the batch size? 48.
Okay, let's go.
Sure, yeah.
That was a very 16.
This is probably whatever you're on. I mean, yeah, to be honest, it should be a multiple of the max data, but. Like, it should like.
She told me I've added them.
Did you add it to 60?
Oh my gosh, that's too high.
It's with mine.
I think it's very true.
I
Oh,
got
you're,
it.
how do you use your max length?
1,000.
Oh.
Yeah, the 1,000 is way too high for.
Oh, it's the length
100,
is
oh, I
100.
put an extra zero by accident, I'm sorry.
Like 100. 100, like, yeah. And 100 is still actually out of as well.
So so the CSV is what we would upload to the Kaggle to test it? Okay.
Oh, are you uploading?
Yeah, which
Let's go.
It's literally just
No,
the.
it's our team, you're representing us, because I'm going home and.
Okay.
I'm gonna start gradient checkpointing right now.
What you could do is gradient accumulation.
Wait a second, like, now, like, even the basic stuff are now like.
Yeah, let me restart it. 120 maybe too long yet. Try just 100.
Here's hoping.
Yeah, if you want to get bigger batches, you're gonna have to start doing gradient accumulation. So that means doing multiple passes without resetting the
Are these
gradients.
not great?
No, they're not good at all, those are horrible, like, I don't know why you're uploading them.
Is that what it's doing here? What happened?
I can see.
Yeah, so we're getting very similar.
Overfitting.
No, I think we want everyone to be higher.
Oh,
You guys are the same team.
Yeah, because 1 is perfect, 0 is.
Oh, okay, then that's good.
Garbage.
Oh, so the second column's F one.
You have 3 GPUs, and it's gonna
No,
be
this is
important
user
because that means you can do
code.
3 times more experiments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I got a 0.21, so not that great.
It's already 7.
22 is.
Yeah, but, yeah, I know, but like, you can also.
No.
She did write a description of.
Wait, ours was 21.
Yeah, we're in last place.
Uploading the files.
Description, we don't care.
Oh, yeah.
We don't care. And like, description is for you.
What the
It's
hell?
like, no, if you try the, like, because maybe you're saying, I know, I tried this setting.
Wait,
Like,
so
no,
how
I
is that-
tried like 150 levels. And then you want to
How?
be like, that's what.
It doesn't work for everything.
What? 4.7. Okay. I thought 0.7, I was like.
Wait, so now we just run the model a bunch of times.
Just keep running the model with bigger and bigger data. But before it,
And that's called deep learning. We've done all of this, like now you're able to increase numbers.
Oh,
and you're like,
nice.
let's go.
But does it get to
Zero
a point where
I
Like,
won.
this feels really slow.
Oh, that's very good.
Yes,
That's very lucky, honestly.
Do
How
they
would-
remember
how
if you
would-
put too much data, it gets worse?
Like, is it
what?
If you
Like,
put too much, like, can it get to a point where if you put too much data, it gets worse?
Like,
Yeah,
we
it already does,
like,
except if
100,
it's
wouldn't this
bad
be
data.
forever?
But no, usually it's a very clear.
To get my first.
So then maybe like what's a way I can like,
I think like I discarded the validation test. Like no, everyone's training on like 0.8, and I just trained on like 0.99.
How many sets you have?
J'ai mon validation test et puis sur plus de là.
Ah ouais.
Ouais, je voudrais que ça serve à rien, personne ne dit.
Who has been able to submit?
I submitted something.
All right. Okay. At this point, you can start scaling up. We can add like way more data points. You can have like longer sequences and more data points, and so you have to take some time to train. But what I want to show you is a way to see how is your training going, and this is the results of loss function and F1 scores. And what is the two big important things that we can notice in this plot? What's the trend? How are those curves interacting?
Looks like, the train loss was, coming down while we were training. But, the validation loss says otherwise. Although it's not really bad. It's not bad, yeah.
It's not too bad. So a classic way to see overfit is when those two curves diverge significantly. At this point, we're really more interested in the F1 score, and those two seems to be quite close to each other. So it seems we're pretty good. What is the biggest thing that we can see on the F1 score plot? How far can it get? We're at 70%. How high could it go?
One.
Honestly, guys, if I keep training, I think it's gonna reach one. No? So that's the other parameter you need to check. How many epochs? For now, we have been running on 10 epochs. So definitely something to always check. Let's try doubling the epochs and just see if we converge. We're typically in a case of undertraining here.
Wait, there, the orange line is the validation,
Yeah, I think it is. Sorry, I didn't put any.
okay. So
Legends?
because like, so, okay, I'm just trying to think, like, it makes sense for the validation curve to be a lot less smoother than the training curve.
Yeah, validation loss is it's a smaller data set. Could be that the reason. And yeah, you might. Yeah, it's hard to know. Usually, validation is a bit more jumping around.
So does that mean that it's just really hard to reach one because you're not gonna generate a curve that is as like spiky as a validation curve?
It's usually stabilize as you really train for a long time, and what you see and what you want to reach is plateau of performance. Here we haven't reached it for sure, so you have to keep training. Usually at the plateau, the oscillation kind of dampens a bit. There is another trick. What should be done once you have when you have very unstable training? What should be the number one reflex? When you have unstable training, what should be the number one reflex?
Increase the batch size.
Increase the batch size is one way, or epoch what?
Increase the batch size.
The number of epoch, not necessarily. If it's just going crazy, it's not gonna be better later. Not necessarily.
Reduce the learning rate.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, increasing batch size and reducing learning rate has a similar effect, but batch size is usually very quickly limited by memory. So here we might have like a smoother curve if we reduce the learning rates, but we might also have lower performance. So, as you can see, we reach higher. I know we haven't converged yet, but we're already higher than before. We are right at 75, and now we're on a good track to reach maybe 95 or something.
I was like, we're just like, jump into the kernel and just like stop interrupting.
So yeah, always check your learning curve. At this point, there are just so many tricks, and I don't exactly know what is the best way for you to kind of start differentiating yourselves.
Yeah, like.
But-
Actually, that's probably fine.
Yeah.
The numbers there, that's.
Keep training. I'm gonna just throw a bunch of ideas, and those who can remember them might get lucky.
There you go.
And we'll become learning scientists.
So, yeah, some ideas, as I said, keep training for longer, check that you converge, play with the learning rates. Typically at the beginning, we really want often a high learning rate because we're starting from scratch and there's a lot to learn. But as we progress over the epochs, we usually want a smaller learning rate to smoothly convert and stabilize. So there is something called a scheduler in PyTorch. And I'm not going to really show you how it works. So for those of you who are brave, you can kind of check how it works, check some tutorial. And the scheduler is often like a little piece of code, and it's just gonna reduce the learning rates whenever you want. Whenever you do like scheduler.step, it's gonna reduce the learning rates by some function. The classic way is to keep multiplying learning rate by a value like 0.9, so it keeps reducing smoothly. And by the time you reach maybe epoch 10 or 20, well, your learning rate is maybe 10 times lower, and it's exactly the time when you want to be very precise. So that's one trick you can try.
What is it called? Scheduler.
Scheduler, search for scheduler PyTorch. So here, every training we keep replotting to see how it goes. Here it looks like a pretty good plateau, and I don't think we're gonna reach 100%. So what do? We get more data, and actually we're gonna train on longer sequences. You know what? We're gonna stay in this regime. We're gonna add more data, and whenever we reach like perfect prediction, then we make the problem harder by adding more sequences. So that could be one way to go. So I double the number of data points, and let's see if I can read perfect prediction with that. So schedule is a trick, learning rate is a trick, batch size. What is the batch size that you guys have right now?
I'm using
8. 16. So these are pretty small actually. Usually you find a pretty big batch size, and it can help to try maxing it out. So you can try just put a number, double it every time, try a few things, and at some point it's gonna break. It's just gonna tell you, I'm out of memory. You might even have to restart the kernel. So try to reach that point and see if the performance changes. Usually bigger batch size makes things smoother, and because you're averaging over many data points, and also makes things a bit faster because you're parallel processing many data points. So try playing with that, and try to play with both learning rate and batch size. If you increase the batch size, you might get away with a more aggressive learning rate. So these are the two parameters you need to tune together. Here we see some pretty high instabilities already. Things are just moving around a lot. This is not a very good sign. I don't know what is the learning rate. It's pretty small
So
already.
the function subplot is it creates like this, the framework cryptographs on, and then you have to, and it like tells you which subplot to begin. So like,
I just want everyone to know I'm in last place.
and
Oh,
I was
are
thinking
you?
your original plot.
Yes,
for now.
Okay.
These two.
To be fair, I trained them that time.
Wait, what?
He trained it on his laptop.
Oh, you didn't connect to. Wait.
I just ran on my.
Where is the team of Sheriff? Just
Oh,
called Sheriff. You're doing from my
Slower,
prediction
so
of
it's
Minera,
not
you know?
making
It's like the team that you did the predictions.
Oh,
So I guess
the
it's
first
not
one
on
did
the
it,
part
like,
again.
Okay, but the team is just for him.
Yeah.
The team is just named Human.
So I'm happy to tag
The
it.
team name is like Sheriff. You could find like a team name.
Yeah, I didn't know it was supposed to be someone, so.
Like, give me that.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll have to shoot.
I'll have to write that and see.
I just created my.
Can you give us
Oh,
some more submissions?
Some more ideas?
No, submissions.
Just
On
like
Kaggle.
lower stakes.
Increase the number of submission, yeah. I guess.
Yes, agreed, it's not really the correct word.
Oh, by the way, we're already reaching the max,
So,
already 7,000, so we're gonna have to increase the length, and we're reaching the limit of what we can do. So pretty stable, but actually we're gonna be,
this kernel got like reset.
yeah, we might get a better score.
We're gonna have to run them again.
Okay, go.
I'm sorry, it's not this will run,
Can I
but after
increase-
this should.
It's only 15 actually. Yeah, can do 20 submission now.
It's just because like I think it's per team.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like if there are 3 of them and like it's like. I'm fine, I'm not
So
gonna
if
be
you
funny,
just,
but like.
if you separate it out like we have, and you just run the training loop, if you don't.
And anyway, you've
go
got like
reinitialize
60% of the
model,
data is like in
something
team.
train that model, so I wasn't actually
The name
on
of-
25, I was on 75.
Sorry?
I can never run.
So maybe, so that's part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so
But
that's
like it's really crazy how great Vast is.
I love it.
I really love Vast. Like,
So
if I ever run into a machine learning problem, I will use Vast.
So with some crazy shit, this is not great.
32.
I mean, like, you did reach 2.9 of,
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You're right. I'm kidding.
So let's try increasing a bit the length.
I'm not sure.
Gotta go to at least 200 guys. Telling you.
You can see the story.
What do I do actually? Ooh, I have a
Oh, so
good
it's-
size actually.
So is this checking up to size 200? Like sequences, is that, so is that why like my first one was so bad, because I only ever trained up to 100 and I was checking against even larger ones?
Yeah, the test has much longer sequences.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
you gotta try training on longer and longer sequences.
Gotcha.
you're correct, but like, you're already above 0.5. Yeah, but you guys are.
Wait, no, you're, no,
No.
we're at like 0.2
Two,
something.
I'm not in certificate territory yet.
I'm not either, if that's.
You are eligible.
There's something wrong there.
I give up, honestly. I'm waiting on you guys.
0.5.
No, but guys, like you just add number and you just press enter and then it's just funny because like the numbers keep getting up.
Exactly.
I think at least it's the fun of.
I mean, at this point, I'm
How do I look-
keep looking around.
Because I feel like the two of you are having a lot of fun. Like,
He just became alive and we're playing.
I know, you literally, like, I carried the morning and then you like clocked it in.
Like I said, I'm clocking it for the night shift.
You're funny. Oh, I have graphs.
At this point, you're gonna start to have a lot of time during training. What do you
I
get?
still honestly
Oh,
don't
I'm
believe
just
I'm
loading, I
gonna
added,
but-
I added another convolution.
Wow.
Yeah, that's not my, yeah.
Wow, that's.
But now it's taking a really long time.
Yeah, I was about to say, at this point,
Yes.
training is starting to take like maybe 5-10 minutes every time. So it's starting to give you time to explore new architectures. You can start develop new codes. One thing I would try actually is maybe reducing a bit the model size, because during the preparation of this workshop, I tried like a bit smaller. The thing you have right now is quite big, and I wonder if we can easily edit this. So maybe let's go over. Let's just close it down.
Actually, I have an idea of something that you guys end up doing.
Aha!
Yes,
Try it.
I will try it.
So if
Good
you
luck,
look
Aaron.
source, model.py, I wonder if I can edit it. I think I can, yeah? Yeah, okay, I think I'm gonna just try to reduce a bit the size of this guy.
In the GPU.
Hopla. A bit faster.
Have less layers?
Yeah, I'm gonna just try to see how it's going. You can explore so many things. it's gonna run faster.
Man, there is one person that asked for credits, Apple John on Slack.
Well. Wait, I think I sent it to him. Where is it?
It was 16 minutes ago.
Okay.
Not very good.
Yeah, I sent it to him.
You don't.
Okay.
But maybe, I mean, this is like the first round.
Yeah, so it literally was.
0.447.
So then this where can I just edit it?
Yeah, I was looking up what the.
It's okay, that's what I'm here for.
This one for you. Yes, so you can actually edit this if you guys need. It's not too bad.
This can you share this? People share this one.
What? Share what?
This.
My heart is
This.
Honestly, if it's a
This notebook?
That's cruel, that is so cruel.
This is.
It's 0.49.
Yeah, you should.
0.4?
You should just open. This is not something I can share actually. This is something personal to your GPU. Just
Yes, no, they're gonna give.
go
it
on
to you.
Vast,
I think they're messing
open your
with it.
GPU,
Yeah, he just went in and changed.
and then you're gonna arrive to this page. And then you click on NextEpoch structure prediction.
Oh my
So here you're gonna
God.
arrive like,
Put it in.
gonna arrive here,
Oh,
go here,
you're that.
and then here you create a notebook. And that's it.
Okay, it's on GitHub. Is it what you
Are we number one or no?
No, there are two things. The code is on GitHub, but the framework we use here is just the online notebook from Vast. So when you do this,
We're second.
you're gonna get a notebook on Vast.
That's so amazing.
The real team.
And then, but did you install?
No, the installation won't work on mine.
Yeah, but no, but this should work on the browser.
Yeah, this actually
She
works,
like.
but I can't
I
be
was
fast.
excited to.
Yeah,
announce
but
that
this
I
is on
was
Vast.
live.
This is
I
Vast.
don't think I
Yeah,
have
I mean,
patched it.
the GPU, whatever thing, I couldn't install it.
I haven't been on
Like,
before it was
No,
Twitter, me too.
You don't need to install,
Okay.
as long as the website works and you have credits. Do you have something, here? Do you have some GPUs on your account?
yeah, yeah,
So what happens when you do open?
because I wasn't even doing anything. Because of it.
You don't need to install anything on your computer. We are,
Because he said it required that I install whatever of my, not on the terminal of,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. In the end, we converge to this other solution that doesn't require all this installation. That's why I'm saying this will work that way. You just click open. Have you tried clicking open on the GPU?
For what?
Yeah, it's taking a bit too long.
No, keep it up, keep it.
Smaller model.
I
all the
would,
way.
yeah, keep it low,
Keep it low?
yeah.
Okay.
I changed.
I have the same issue. Actually, I trained on Python the same. What are the parameters? Can you go up?
I think that's,
My GPU is much lower than yours, I think.
save the, like, whatever, like, literally like screenshot this and like.
Yeah, my
graph
GPU is
and
like
save it
so
so that we
slow.
can like see if this new one is like.
You should-
Yeah.
Is it like what's